Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back. George Morgan here at your service. It's PSGL, it's Wednesday night, it's Spain tonight as well. Lots on the table, lots of battling. The title contest is still alive and kicking. And Jack, it's only taken us 10 rounds. We're on the 11th. It's all to play for.
Boromant goes on the inside and takes the lead on the final lap of the race. Now it's side by side between Boromant and Warner, but Boromant's got the inside.
Literally a guest star here in this phenomenal race. Cameron Dowd looking to take P2 in his very first PSGL F1 PC race. Incredible to say the least. You see their Putin to lead. 1.5 seconds. DRS is the name.
Good evening everyone, welcome back to the PSGL YouTube channel for round number 7, I believe this is, of this PC season. Tonight the drivers are taking to a very recognisable circuit. It is of course the Singapore, what was it, the Marina Bay Street Circuit I believe it's called, here in Singapore this evening. Very exciting track, very closed in, of course, you know, no room for error whatsoever. Should make for a fun one this evening. My name is Danfield, once again, as always, being joined by Nathan Richards. Nathan, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Dan. I hope you're doing well as well. But this race, I think, it's going to be a bit of an interesting one in terms of, I think a lot of it will just be more about staying out of the walls more than actually trying to overtake people on track. So I think when it comes to qualifying, I think that probably matters a lot more than it does the actual race itself, because the only real thing you can do in the race to get past people is if someone makes a really big mistake and ends up in the wall, or if you can get a really good mastermind strategy. So I think a lot of it will be down to quali, which I think means qualifying could be probably one of the most interesting this season.
Absolutely, of course, very difficult to make overtakes. There's only 2 DRS zones, if I'm not, no, there's 3 now actually, 3 DRS zones, so actually a few places the drivers can go for overtakes. Of course, Singapore's a circuit that's seen many a change in its very short history. Of course, back in 2008 made its debut as the very first F1 night race. That's why their handle on Twitter is actually just F1 night race. And then it's, of course, it used to have the infamous Singapore sling down in what, turn number 9, 10 and 11 I believe that is, that would see drivers jumping over the curb there. And there's been numerous changes to this circuit, and I think for the better. You know, it's fun to drive in my opinion, but it's very difficult to race on. So it's one of those tracks that drivers, I think, typically they prefer to, you know, play time trial on this one as opposed to actually you know, getting into a race. And of course it is one of the longer races, 31 laps around this circuit. And Nathan, it's about what it's like 1 minute 35 average lap time here.
Well, it wasn't on the last game, but once they removed that section down to like the bridge at like turn 15, I think it's about 1 minute 28, 1 minute 29 now. I know in qualifying we expect to see the low 27s. Obviously in the race it'll be bumped up a bit more with obviously using the higher fuel and the different tyres. So yeah, I think probably around the 1 minute 29, 1 minute 30s we'll see in the race. But in qualifying, I think we'll see mainly the 27 lows, maybe even a high 26.9, but I don't know if that is that possible. I know that back in another series I covered a couple of weeks back, we had our fastest lap of 1 minute 27.1, but I think here in this group might be able to see about a tenth or two quicker than that. So either way, I think qualifying is going to be very fun, and it's wet. Okay, now that is something I didn't expect.
Wow. Completely wet to start off this session. Before we get into qualifying, let's have a look at the standings heading into this one. After the Italian Grand Prix, Tamas Gals still does lead the way ahead of Max Wiesel. 20 points is the gap between the pair of them. So Tamas really, you know, there's not as much pressure actually coming into this evening as opposed to, you know, last week where it was, what, 16 points, I believe, between himself and the next driver. Joost Noordijk does remain in third, just 1 point ahead of Kian Gondorp, and then both the McLarens of Shimon Lekomsky and Daniel Shelson line up 5th and 6th on 31 and 27 respectively. Joseph Loke still 7th on 24 points with Jan Halliday on 21. Tycho Hardy is 9th on 19, and then Louis Welch is rounding out that top 10 with his 16 points. Just 2 ahead of Fionn McKee in 11th on 14. Then there's got 2 reserve drivers, Yannick Schmidt and Lenny Pepinter, both of them joint on 12 points ahead of Jerry Van Bussel and Liam Stevens. Then Legend Rosenberg is 16th on 9. Bradley Holdham and Daniel Coyer, both the Ferraris, line up 17th and 18th. And then Sergio Sobrino, 19th on 4. And Race Imtiaz is rounding out the top 20 on 3 points. You can see the constructor standings as well. Very close between Alpine, McLaren and Red Bull. Of course, Alpine's points solely scored by Tamas Gal so far this season. It's been a joint effort for both McLaren and Red Bull thus far. But Nathan, very tight at the minute in the constructor side of things. But that's not really the case when it comes to the driver standings. Tamas Gal really is sort of having his own with this grid. He's doing really well so far this season. Of course, what, 3 wins or something under his belt at this point. He's having a great time of driving on this F123 game, and coming in towards the latter half of this season, I'd imagine he's not going to slow down.
Yeah, I don't expect Tamas to be leaving off at all. I think he'll still be applying as much pressure as he can. And at the moment, he's only had wins on the podium, so he's never been second, he's never been third on the grid. So maybe that will change sometimes towards the end of the season. But the gap to Max Weasley is only 20 points. So just say in this race, Tamas DNFs and Max wins, that brings that gap down to potentially 3 or 4 points. So, you know, Tamas can't afford at any point to kind of, you know, relax with it. He's got to completely be on it until that final round. But a driver who's probably surprised me coming into the season the most is Keane Goldendorp. Obviously, very recently moving over to the PC from the PS side. He's a point behind Joe Snordike, who we know has been in the scene for a long time. Very fast driver. Max Wissel just ahead of him as well. So I'd say Keane is probably, for me so far, the most outstanding driver here this season. And I believe he's one of the drivers on Inters. We've got a mix stand of Inters and wet, so that isn't something we see that often at all, is it, when it comes to the weather conditions? It's normally one or the other. Yeah,
it's very interesting to see sort of the array of tyres that we are actually seeing at the minute. I'll bring up the tyres for you just now. Normally I don't have this on during qualifying because they're most likely to be on the soft, but you can see majority of the grid, it seems like, are on a set of the intermediates, but there are a select few drivers that have gone for the wet set. I think the most notable one is the championship leader of Tamas Gal. He is just coming around in that 3rd sector now to complete his outlap. And of course, Nathan, I remember saying the lap times were a lot slower due to the fact that they've completely changed this circuit. I actually forgot this change even happened. Maybe that shows that I don't really pay all that much attention to Formula 1. Maybe not enough as I should do. But getting into this qualifying, you can see Sergio Sobrino is sliding all the way through in this 2nd sector. I wonder if the wet is the better tyre to be on at the minute. The rain definitely seems heavy enough, but maybe
what's happened here? Well, well, it wasn't. Is it anything to? Are you still with us, Stan?
Nope. Unable to connect to EA servers, apparently.
Yeah, I think the EA servers, the servers have died. I can't either. I think the servers have just died on us.
Right, as qualifying gets underway.
Yeah. Tamas Gal says EA servers have gone down, but I've just looked in the chat, and I don't know if this will probably save us or not, but Frankie has told us a wet race and quali. So we're in for a very long night, and hopefully the servers go back up, because they're completely gone down for everybody. Well, what a start this has been.
I've looked straight into the Discord, and they're all going GG, GG. Just me? Does this happen? It's quite funny. They're all talking about how the servers have just gone down.
Detector.
Yeah, someone said Steam is dead. Android Terrabucan says Steam is dead. I wonder if Steam has gone down.
Could be, yeah.
I'm looking on the store. Doesn't seem like I've got any issues with Steam. I'm going to have a look on the F1 game. I think this would be an interesting thing to check on F1 World, and then see how many multiplayer sessions are actually online. It's also...
I can't see anything like that.
It says retry connection, so yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's just gone offline. I'm going to have a look at what WOR now, because they're live at the minute. But well.
Yeah, EA Data Detector's got 11 reports now.
I think
don't know if that means a lot.
I think that means that the servers might have gone down. Yeah, no, I'm looking at WR as well, and they've gone. They're still going. No, they've got the.
It's weird, isn't it? If the server if the server started, it seems it's fine, but for us, no, it's not working. It says 7:52. It was reported that a visitor from the United States had reported a problem with the AA servers. So yeah, some from the US have reported the issue, and Race just says the servers are back.
Servers are back. Okay, well, let me see. It says I'm disconnected from Steam as well. So has Steam gone down?
We're back.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay.
So I'm back as well. Oh, and some other people. So some of us are back, some of us aren't. Isn't this great?
Retry connection. Right, let's see.
Max has got it to work. Legend can't. Andre can't. Tamash can't. And also, we could be saved here, Dan, because Connor said that it will be dynamic weather.
Get
So
in.
we could have a bit of a shorter evening, because this would have been probably one of the longest races we've had in F2, because a dry race is quite long. It's about 50 minutes. The wet, you're probably looking at over an hour.
One shot quali, maybe?
Oh,
I'm just joking. I'm just
I was going
joking.
to say one shot quali.
I'm just joking. No, of course we're going to get the 18-minute session back underway. Session has not gone up yet, so I'd imagine we're just going to have to wait for Tamash to get that one set up. And then we should be good to go. Yeah. Connor's having a go at Tamash at the minute in the...
Wow, not too happy, is he? Oh, Connor.
No, funny. It's just funny, isn't it? Right, yeah, apologies everyone for the issues going on. I guess F2 is really just doing what it wants for us at the moment, isn't it? Tamash Gal's yet to get the lobby back online. Hopefully we should be able to get into the action soon. And Nathan, I remember what I used to do whenever we had like a lobby issue or something. I would hook up my wheel and I'd just drive the track for everyone on stream and just be like, this is what we're supposed to be seeing right now. And I don't know why that's just popped into my memory. Can't do it at the minute. My wheel is under my desk at the minute and it's not been plugged in for however long at this point. I think I've come to uni since September, and I think I might have plugged my wheel in once or twice maybe. So it just shows how much of this game I actually do play, off stream and stuff. But yeah, maybe I should pull it back out, and then when stuff like this happens again, can get it all sorted.
Yeah, well, speaking of that, I did the exact same thing last week. I was doing a charity event. It was at Monza, and the servers died. So I went on to time trial and performed a brilliant lap, which is 4 seconds off the time trial lap record. It caused some entertainment in the chat, mainly for people saying how bad I was. And there was many people being sarcastic saying I was cooking, and I'm like, yeah, I don't fall for that one. I was on a 1 minute 23, and I think in PSGL we saw a 1 minute 19 flat, so I was a little bit off the pace. But yeah, luckily it's not been that much of an issue, has it? The servers this game compared to last game.
Well, it's actually funny that you talk about commentators and driving and stuff, because next week we've got our commentator event coming up. Are you driving that, Nathan?
I am. Are you driving, Dan?
I am. I'm in Alpha Tauri,
Wow.
so...
Ooh, Williams.
Okay, so we're both back, Mark. It's probably where we belong. I'm trying to see. I'm looking on the grid
great battles.
and seeing if there's anyone that's actually good. I think maybe the best driver might be Jacob, but we're also being joined by Iran F1, a legend in the PSGL scene, long before my time and your time as well, Nathan.
Yeah.
3-time F1 champion, I think, back in the day, like F1 2013 days. Yeah, and so he's going to be racing with us on the grid. I wonder if he's going to have the same skill levels that he's got, but I just want to have a fun time. I have not driven the game properly in so long. I'm just going to have fun. If I spin, I spin, it's likely to happen. But we'll see what happens here. As I'm just trying to see. No one, for some reason, has got the lobby up. Tamash, I can't join Tamash. He says he's not on the game for whatever reason.
Yeah, same. I think he did that last week. Oh, well, he's in the lobby now for me. It just popped up just this second, so we should be able to get ourselves back into the lobby. We're meant to be finishing qualifying in about 2 minutes' time. We haven't started it yet properly, so we'll see if it rains. If not, it was a little bit of hype for qualifying gone, because a wet race isn't fun at Singapore, but a wet qualifying is more than fun at Singapore. I'm back in the lobby. I think we've got about 7 people in that at the moment, so nearly half the grid have got themselves back connected to the EA servers. If anyone in here maybe driving here still can't get back in, you need to go possibly try and restart your game, restart everything, maybe even restart your PC, so you can try and get everything work.
Yeah, It's a real shame that it has to be this way. I'm trying to see. I don't know if I've actually got any like intermission scene or anything. Don't know. Well, this is the intermission scene, I suppose. But like, a be back soon, because we might as well at this point just sort of head off for a bit. I don't know when we're actually gonna get back into the lobby. We've only got 8 drivers in at the moment. So fingers crossed we should get racing very soon. I can already see the mob beginning to form in the chat. When race start whenever race start. Okay, it's coming. It's gonna start up soon, but we got to get through qualifying as well first, of course.
Yes, which could be quite long. We've still only got half the people in because some people still can't get themselves back into the session. So yes, isn't this great, Dan? We had this happen. Where was it now? Was it Silverstone? Something similar happened last season where we ended up waiting nearly half an hour for the race to begin.
Oh, I don't remember.
Something to do with Camille and his internet, and we never got started for half an hour.
No, I remember that. I do remember. That was this season, wasn't it? Was it last season?
Camille's in F3 now.
Oh, so it was probably last season then, yeah.
Yeah, it was. I'm sure it was Silverstone. It was something. I know it was a dry race. So I remember just staring at blue sky for about 30 minutes. Whether it was beginning, in the end it did begin, but there was lots of angry people in the chat. Because I think there was someone in there that was like, "Come on, it's like 1 a.m. We need to get started." Like obviously 1 a.m. for them, they need to get started, and in the end we did.
I do remember.
Yeah, that one got brushed under the carpet very quickly. There was not many happy people, me included, and I believe Dan as well.
I do remember that race. Camel was like. I think Connor just got involved. I think Tamash didn't want to start without Camel, which is fair enough. They practice hard all week. You want to get everyone involved and try and have the best race that you can, but it did eat into our evening quite a lot. I don't remember that race all that particularly well. I think Shimon Lakomsky was on pole position, so and Camel did have a decent qualifying, if I'm not mistaken.
He did.
He was
he
fit.
got DSQ'd or something. Yeah, at the end.
Oh, he didn't. No, it was Shimon that got disqualified.
Oh, was it? Oh, wait, yeah, because he had this. Was it the same lap time as someone who was in second? They had matching times, didn't they, at the top?
I wasn't disqualified.
And they were saying, well, they did or something. It was very close. I'm sure that happened.
That's not going to disqualify you. I remember.
No, they had the same lap time when he got disqualified, and people were saying who goes first, him or the other guy.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't. It was quite a while. Well, was it a while ago? I don't remember, to be honest.
Season 34, it could have been. Or maybe... No, because you wasn't with me in season 33, so it would have had to have been last season. But then again, I've been to bed quite a number of times since. So it's quite a blurry moment. But many things happened last season, didn't they, Dan? And I think this season has been generally a little bit less chaotic in terms of game issues. But a lot more chaotic in terms of the championship. Compared to when we had Mirko and Jack, which flew away after 3 rounds.
Yeah. I mean, that was a fun title fight. Jack West, Mirko Soriano, both 2 incredibly talented drivers fighting out for the title in F2. Of course, Mirko did have his own issues, and he's not really raced so far this season. Of course, Jack, I don't believe, is allowed to race in F2 after... No, I don't. Well, or he just didn't sign up or something.
Should be, because Mirko was allowed.
Mirko didn't
and if Sergio Sabrino wasn't there, Mirko could have won the championship.
Mirko didn't win the title, though. Sergio Sabrino was there.
And he's here tonight as well.
Yeah, we was watching Sergio on his lap, and then just
first one out
of nowhere, just get completely taken away from all of the fun. We've got 15 people in the lobby now, so we're almost there. Who are the 2 people haven't joined in yet? There was a Ferrari, I think, that hadn't joined.
Mercedes, Rishan and Andre.
Rishan, Andre. Yeah, and then one of the Ferrari. Oh no, it's just them 2. There was only one Ferrari.
Only 17.
Yeah. So we're missing Louis Welch. We're missing. Who's in the Ferrari with Daniel Coyer?
Bradley. No, is Bradley full time?
It is Bradley. Yeah. Bradley Holdham's not here. Oh, we did see Bradley.
He was
actually
reserved at the start, wasn't he?
Yeah. We saw Bradley at the start of the stream. He's in the live chat, I believe, at the minute. And then there's a Williams also missing this evening. So yeah, 17 drivers. I don't know. I think that's probably a worse thing, unfortunately. We're getting Kailani asking if she can race. Do we let her in? I think, why not?
Well, might be able to do quicker than some of those that don't set a time.
She's the biggest Thomas Ronhard fan in the world, so I think she drives just like him.
Well deserved then, if that's the case. She can join.
Get in the lobby, have some fun with us. We do apologise for the wait. We are soon to get into this stream, but into the race. But Nathan, I think we could also talk about what happened from last week in Italy. Of course, there's one big thing that is.
Do we have to talk about it?
Why not? We've got nothing else to talk about at the moment, but let's have a little think at what has happened. So Paul Eckelmeyer is wait, hang on. So I've seen that Paul
With a
Eckelmeyer's he's actually been excluded from round 7, so he's got a race ban now.
Oh,
it
I
says
thought it was a qualifying ban.
Okay, right. So there's two things, right? So it's it's like a little bit underneath that says, considering the penalties Paul Eckelmeyer has to serve on their next event, we've taken the decision Paul Eckelmeyer will be excluded from that round number 7, which is, I guess, why he's missing this evening. I didn't know that actually happened. I thought it was just a qualifying ban. Maybe they reevaluated the situation, decided to give a race ban for that incident. I think it is fair enough. We were being a bit extreme last week, saying that he shouldn't be in the league anymore, but I reckon that second chances and all, a race ban, or maybe even a 2 race ban, definitely is serviceable. So it's good to see that he has been excluded. Hopefully learns his lesson, comes back stronger next week, and well, not next week, next race, because last race 2023. Let's have a little look at some other penalties. There is an incident between Race Imtiaz and Tycho Hardy. Tycho Hardy ended up taking a 3-second time penalty for all that, as well as 2 license points. And there was a whole thing with that there. But other than that, very clean Grand Prix. No other incidences to be... Okay, never mind. I didn't scroll up. Plenty of incidences that happened last time out in Italy. But Nathan, it was a great race. Hoping for the same for Singapore. Not too sure it's going to happen, though.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be as crazy as Monza was. I didn't even expect Monza to be as crazy as it was last week. But I still think we're going to be in score for a decent race. Obviously, as we said, the final race of 2023. To be honest, it doesn't feel like it's been a year since since January. It doesn't feel like it's been a whole year since 2023 started. It's been one of those years where, to me, it's been a little bit, well, personally not been dull, but I think on a whole it's been a bit of a dull year. Not much has happened, has it? But then again, we came on the back of a pandemic. We've kind of hit a bit of a lull point, haven't we, in terms of it's just everyone getting on with everything now, aren't they?
Yeah, I think league racing is still in a great position at the minute. Of course.
No, I mean, in a general note. Like, not league racing in particular. But everything. It's been a bit of a dull year.
I've had a great year, I think. I've had plenty of fun. Doing my first year of university now, coming towards the midpoint of my second. Yeah, I've had a great time.
Second year of uni?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was on your first year of uni.
I'm a 20-year-old. I don't like to say that.
20 years old.
Don't like to say it at all. Yeah. This is what we've been reduced to, just talking about our years, not about league racing or anything, just about our years. In terms of PSGL's year, it's been a great year for the team. I'm gonna bring up the tweet that was made earlier as qualifying is getting underway, so we shouldn't be too long until we're into the action. I can see that it's actually dry, so stay tuned for that. But I'm gonna have a quick look at the My Year on YouTube 2023 that PSGL put out. Absolutely incredible numbers from PSGL in 2023, going up 18,000 subscribers. Incredible growth in this year. On top of that, there's 3 million views to the channel, 537 uploads. We've had 53,000 likes, 2,000 comments across all of our videos. That would be live streams included, and then 6,467 shares. Nathan, what a year for PSGL.
It's been mental. Obviously, I'm considered one of the new ones. I joined back at the start of 2022, and The growth since then has been absolutely phenomenal. I remember I was back in F4 when I first started alongside Josh Birch, and we used to have around 15 to 20 views per stream. Now I can see F4 getting over 50, 60 views per stream, so it is great to see. As well, some of the lower tiers get a bit more notice from people in the community and see a lot more people want to get involved, and the effort that goes in constantly, considering the lack of what's going on in esports. The effort is still amazing, if not better than it was before. Everyone's putting in much more time, much more effort to kind of, you know, fill that hole that esports has created over these past couple of months, and well, whether we'll have to continue filling that hole next year, hopefully not, but we'll see what esports brings next year, if they bring anything, of course. But honestly, I think league racing is I'd say in its prime time, in a way. I think there's many things that aren't good, but I think on a whole, it's the best it's ever been, and it will continue to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I remember the first ever PC race, of course, was PC F1. Back in season 27/28. It was a weird little crossover season at the beginning of 2021, where I think the first race in Austria was 150 views or something like that. That's peak live viewers. And to think of those numbers now with PC F1, that's not even a quarter of what they get just in the waiting room. So it's incredible. I mean, the growth of league racing on the whole has been absolutely insane. Of course, the nostalgia factor of COVID back in 2020 kind of makes that my sort of peak of league racing. That was when it was most fun towards me. But I think at the minute, from an objective point of view, league racing is in a very strong place as qualifying finally does get underway after all the issues with the EA servers have been fixed. Kian Gondorp, one of the other Alfa Romeos, gets his lap underway, heading up towards turn number one of 3 DRS zones around this lap. Could see some overtakes in towards that left-handed corner now off the exit of turns number 2 and 3, keeping it pinned to the left and then cutting that apex very nicely on the inside, running it out wide and opening up the DRS. Keep the car as straight as possible, scrub off minimal speed as you head down this straight and in towards the braking zone just before the 50-meter balls. Kian Gondorp being very brave on the brakes, riding the curb ever so slightly on the exit and then continuing along his lap in towards the very tricky second sector. The corners do appear to be quite similar around this circuit, these 90-degree wide corners, but then you approach this next second part of the lap in towards the former Singapore Sling and then on towards the Anderson Bridge. Incredible stuff here and in towards this hairpin corner where he's using all the track possible, riding it wide off the exit and then opening up DRS for the third time along this lap. And Nathan, in towards this next corner, I think is where we're going to see the majority of overtakes.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, then you've got that long straight, as we can see, just a bit of a kink to left, then a long straight down towards turn 16. This will be where the majority of overtakes will happen. Obviously, Kian Gondorp this season has taken, I believe, 2 pole positions this season, or at least 1 pole position this season, so he's looking like one of the stronger drivers when it comes to that qualifying phase of the evening. Just coming through and towards the final corner now at turn 18 and 19 towards the line. What will it be for the opening lap? It will be 1 minute 27.618 on the board, and we can see, I think it's Tygo Hardy comes on, and he goes quicker by 0.2 of a second nearly with a 1 minute 27.484. Then Shimon Lokovsky popped himself into third, and we've got one of the Mercedes coming through. That will be Liam Stevens into third position there, just behind Kian Gondorp. We have one of the Red Bulls, Max Wiesel, into second position behind Tygo Hardy. Tamas Gal, our championship leader, behind Max Wiesel. He is in third position, 5 thousandths clear of Kian Gondorp. A very great opening lap from Tygo Hardy. A few more lap times coming through. Daniel Gelson into 6th position. Looking a little bit further down, we can see one of the Ferraris. That will be Daniel Koyer up into that top 4, 1,000th quicker than Kian Gondorp. 3rd to 5th separated by just 5 thousandths of a second. You can see Declan Barrett making his first race since round 2. He pops himself into that top 3 for the Aston Martin team. We got Rich and Jacobs just get ahead of his teammates by a few thousandths of a second into 7th. Ray Simtiaz into that top 9. Then we have the other Aston Martin of Jan Halliday come through. He goes into 4th to make it a 3-4 so far for Aston Martin. And I think we've also got someone that's Joost Noordijk popping himself up into 4th position. Very decent opening laps there, Dan, and Tygo Hardy currently on that provisional pole position.
Yeah, Tycho Hardy quickest of them all thus far, ahead of Max Wiesel by just over half a tenth of a second. Declan Barrett just sitting shy of a tenth off in 3rd position, and Joost Noordijk very close to Jan Halliday, and Tamas Gal a little bit lower down, 5 thousandths off of Jan, sitting in 6th. A very close qualifying at the very top of the order, and actually in general, look at that gap between 1st down to 10th position. Liam Stevens, of course, sitting just 2 tenths of a second off the back of Tycho Hardy at the minute, so incredibly tight qualifying thus far. We saw 2 invalidations on hot laps, Sergio Sobrino and Jerry Van Bussel, both of them unfortunately invalidating on their run, so they're not going to get a lap on the board. So a real shame, I'd say, for Jerry actually, because of the strength that Tycho Hardy has had so far this session. It'd be great to see both Alpha Tauris towards the top of the order. They've been relatively upper midfield drivers, I'd say, throughout the course of this season. Both of them, of course, formerly PlayStation drivers, and they've got that F7R link, so I'd imagine these two are very good friends and they work very well together, and I do hope the best for both of them. So Jerry Van Bussel and Sergio Sobrino, who is back out on circuit straight away for another outlap. I hope for their sakes they can get themselves in a decent grid spot, because of course, Nathan, we know how difficult it can be to have side-by-side battling around such a tight circuit like this.
Indeed, and I'm also surprised by McLaren. Obviously, Daniel and Shimon have been 2 of the best drivers, I think, in qualifying, and probably the best team on a whole. Averaging through qualifying this season. They're sitting down in 12th and 13th. They're about 4-ish tenths off the back of Tycho Hardy. They definitely need to find something in their next two or three runs in this session. But it's also great to see the 2 Mercedes, Rishan and Liam, in that top 10. Liam on 11 points this season. Rishan still yet to score a top 10 position here, so maybe that could be the night for him. Currently starting in 9th position. We know around here overtaking is quite scarce, so if you start in the top 9, hopefully in Rishan's sake he can keep himself in that top 9 throughout, because it's very hard to overtake around this circuit. As we've said, Sergio Sobrino's on and out lap, just heading down towards turn 14, but Declan Barrett showing great form in his first returning race here for 5 rounds, currently sitting in 3rd behind Max Wiesel, who, well, he's got 20 points to back of Tamas Gal. Tamas is down in 6th, Max is in 2nd. He's got that advantage. He needs to carry that through and towards the race if he can, and just try and close that gap down to Tamas. Even if it's by 2 or 3 points a race, that eventually will bring that gap down to a very small gap. And obviously we've got, I think, including this round, 5 rounds left to go, obviously, where we end off in Bahrain. Yeah, I think the championship is still more to play for, and I think with Max Wiesel being one of the most experienced drivers, he can put up with pressure for a lot longer than some of the others can, who are very young and been inexperienced to that whole pressure situation. So I think Max, if anyone, is the best person to be having to charge down someone in the championship.
Yes, here comes now Sergio Sobrino beginning his lap in towards the first couple of corners. Now a few drivers already coming out onto the circuit, hopefully not going to impede the Spaniard as he gets his lap underway, heading now in towards the first sector where he's going to kiss the apex on the inside and run it out wide. Be careful not to carry too much speed through that corner, otherwise you're going to be losing your front left end plate to that outside wall. Now heading down this straight, the Raffles Boulevard, in towards this next left-hander. A few cars getting in the way, even though they're not directly impeding him. They could be serving as visual distractions for Sergio Sobrino for his sake. We'll see if he's able to continue this lap in fine form. Now heading down in towards turns number 9, 10 and 11. Still in their own right, very tricky to get absolutely perfect lockups. Very common in this sector. As now he heads down the Anderson Bridge as a McLaren off to the left-hand side there. But as you know, oh God, I'm losing my words. That is the last of the drivers on slow laps in front of him, so Sergio Sobrino should have some clear air until he catches up to Jerry Van Bussel, who's just gearing up for his lap now, heading in towards this final sector. Formerly, of course, you would take towards a very awkward, very clunky sector of the circuit going underneath one of the grandstands. That's been eradicated now, which is why we see much quicker lap times around this Singapore street circuit. In towards the final corner now for Sergio Sobrino. What is it going to be on the board for the Alfa Romeo driver? Disappointing, 1 minute 28.148 for him, only notching himself up into P14.
Yeah, that's a bit of a surprise to see Sergio that far off. That's what, about 7 tenths off the back of Tycho Hardy's lap time. He needs to find something heavily on that, because that will seem no further than 14th in his session at all. Daniel Kerr gets the first of the grid place penalties, meaning we will get a restart before the race in around 10 minutes time. Jerry Van Bussel just heading down towards Memorial Corner, down in towards turn 7, then in towards turn 8 at the right hand of this section as well. Quite difficult. You can easily lock up, you can easily hit that wall on the exit. You come through in towards Padang at turn 9, and you can see a bit of a tap on the wall, knocked Jerry a little bit wide on the exit, didn't touch that apex. As heads down towards what used to be the Singapore link section. Still a bit of a tight chicane section here at turn 11 and 12. Let's get back on the pen, try not to spin the car as you go through. Very nice so far from Jerry. I think the lap itself has been decent, but there has been a little scruffy bits here and there, which probably will lose him a couple of tenths, I think, in total, as he actually lifts off his lap time there, heading down towards turn 14. So that is Jerry's lap time for now over. I'm trying to see how he's next on track. I think is it going to be... I see who it is. I think it's one of the McLarens. I think it might be Shimon Komsky heading down in towards the hairpin as well. down at turn number 13. We'll see what he can do as he heads up towards this bit of a short straight in towards. Oh, and there's a bit of lag there from Shimon as he heads down in towards turn number 14. Late on the brakes, throw it to the right, get back on the pace of the second down. So that will be his lap time completed. Daniel Kjelson's up by 2.5 tenths on his lap time. That at the moment will be good enough to put himself into that top 4. 4 tenths up on his lap as he comes through. That's at this point good enough to put himself on pole by over half tenth of a second to Togo Hardy. So he comes down in towards turn number 16 and 17 at this final couple of chicane sections. Just throws the car to the right, use the curves for the rotation on the car, get yourself back foot to the floor as you head through towards turn 18 and 19. The final 2 corners on this circuit, a little bit wide, but that still won't knock too much speed off the car as he goes to line. He will take that provisional pole with 1 minute 27.435 as Declan Barrett goes even quicker by 3 tenths of a second with a .432.
Immediately taken away, Daniel Shelson losing that pole position there as Tamas Gal up towards the line ahead of Declan Barrett, and then Max Wiesel with a 1 minute 27.244. A fantastic effort from him there. Tycho Hardy, our former provisional pole sitter. Race Imtiaz gets himself up into second. Tycho Hardy improves. He's purple in that final sector, but it's not enough to notch him up any positions as who is now up next towards the line. We got one of the Hasses in the final sector of Legend Rosenberg. His teammate Joost Noordijk is just ahead of him coming into the pit lane, so we'll have a look at Legend, who's been very disappointing so far this season. He will come back into the pit lane. What a lap time there from Max Wiesel, a 1 minute 27.244. We said at the beginning of the session it was so close at the very top in qualifying, and now it doesn't feel all the same. We'll have a look at the gaps to the leaders. Max Wiesel almost a full 10th.5 clear of Race Imtiaz in second position. Incredible stuff from Max Wiesel, very well known for his qualifying prowess, and I think he's flexing his muscles here this evening in Singapore.
Yeah, well, obviously back in the 80s last night, he took pole position for the 4th time out of 7 races. So we know Max is very good in qualifying, and I expect to see a lot more from him here at the rest of the season. And I made that bit of a sound to Legend Rosenberg because he was riding the curb when he coming towards the pits. He narrowly avoided the wall. You couldn't see on your camera angle, but he was literally stuck on the curb beach, and it just pulled the car along, and I thought he was going to go into the wall, but luckily did just recorrect as he entered in towards the pits. Daniel Kerr wasn't on that, but he let off. He had an invalidation. But the grid, if you look especially at 3rd down to at 7th, that's what I think just half a second separating Tamas and Liam Stevens. But further up, Race Imtiaz, great to see him fighting in that top 2. Haven't seen him anywhere near that this season, so very good to see him all the way up near the top of the grid. And as well, Declan Barrett still, he's in that top 4 after those second runs. He's still doing quite a good job on his, I wouldn't say it's a debut race, but it's his second race of the season, so it's one of his first races. But still, surprised to not see Jerry Van Bussel with the laps on the board. He's not always at the top, but generally you do see Jerry to have a decent lap time, normally in that midfield, not really expecting to have no lap time and being at the back.
Jerry Van Bussel struggling at the minute. He backed off, of course, on his lap time. We'll see if he's able to correct that later on in this session. We're coming up to just 4 minutes left to go, so it is crunch time now for all of these drivers who have got poorer lap times. Szymon Lekomski is a name that really does leap out to me at the tail end of the field, all the way down in at 13th, which is one of the bottom 4 positions that we have on this grid. Of course, only 16 drivers here this evening. We suffered another casualty, I believe it was Andrei Tarabukin, not able to get back into the lobby, so only 16 runners with us this evening. So 13th on paper doesn't seem all too bad, but for Szymon Lekomski's standards is very, very low, especially when his teammate is just about 4 tenths of a second clear of him at the minute. So it's not looking all that good for Szymon Lekomski. We know how good he is, especially in qualifying. We were talking just about it earlier last season. Pole position in the British Grand Prix is now multiple engineers coming out of the garage to get these cars back out on circuit for the final times in this qualifying session. Nathan, the first driver out on track, is one of the Haas cars. It's either Legend Rosenberg or Joost Noordijk, and it is the latter. Joost Noordijk first out on track.
Yeah, in that top 9, I'd expect to see us a little bit higher. Obviously, we've seen him currently sitting 3rd in the championship on 36 points for the Haas so far. Obviously, had that DNF lap back in Las Vegas. Since then, he hasn't had the best results, but he has had, I think, a couple of podiums this season. Nevertheless, so hopefully to see him a little bit higher in qualifying, because we know roughly what you're qualifying. You're probably, unless you make a large mistake, going to be 1 or 2 positions upper or low. It's not going to be much difference. You're not going to see people going from last to first around this circuit. So where you qualify, you're roughly going to be probably finishing the race around that position either way. So for the people like Race Imtiaz with that 0.3, even if people improve, even if people for the back improve by 2 or 3 tenths, that still puts Race into a decent position going in towards this race. So maybe we could see him have a decent job and get some more points on the board. I think for the so far this season, he hasn't got the most points. Race Empty has only come away with 3 points this season, which was actually back in Monza. When he scored 8th position, so that's his only point. So he's looking for back-to-back point scores this season. His first time scoring back-to-back points, because it's his second time scoring a point this season. So we'll see what he can do in his car. But Max Wiesel still yet again on that pole position. He's in the back of the field here on these out laps. So we'll see if that track evolution gives him a chance to try to retake that pole. If anyone tries to take it off of him once they complete their laps. But yeah, Jost Nordijk leads him way down towards turn 14 to what could be a very, very entertaining finale to qualifying.
Absolutely, you can see they're all very much stacked up heading towards this final sector now, so these guys got to start fanning out a little bit. You don't want to be too close to the car ahead due to the fact that all that dirty air, especially around a circuit like Singapore where downforce is crucial to setting a quick lap. You really do not want to be following too close to a car in those corners, but Jost Nordijk will be the first one to put us onto the final laps of this session, just coming out of the final couple of corners now, and he will get this lap underway. Now heading in towards the first corner at Shears, we open up the DRS for the Haas driver. Have a look at the telemetry, see what kind of speeds he's reaching. It could be 304 kilometers per hour at the braking zone now through the first sector. We're right on board with the Dutchman in this tricky traction zone. As you can see now, he's rising up the gears, really revving out the car, trying to maximize all the speed that he can in towards this next right-hander, tight to the wall, as thin as it can be. Grid penalties coming out now. We will, of course, have a lobby restart now. Jost Nordijk towards the end of the Raffles Boulevard at the braking zone of turn number 7. He's up by almost a tenth and a half. That is a purple first sector for the Dutchman. It's looking good thus far, but he's still got Sector 2 and Sector 3 to go, and arguably Sector 2 is the most technical part of this lap, as now he flies in through this second sector in towards turns number 9, 10 and 11 at the Singapore Sling. Very tricky complex of corners now on towards the Anderson Bridge. We get a beautiful camera angle watching him utilize all the circuit possible through this hairpin corner, then run it out wide to carry as much speed as possible down this straight in towards turn number 14, where we could see some plenty overtakes in towards this next right-hander. Jost Nordijk still finding time. He's not purple in Sector 2, but he's up by almost 0.3 of a second, so it's looking like a good time for him on this lap. Maybe not enough to challenge Max Wiesel, but potentially to get himself onto that front row of the grid now towards the final braking zone along this circuit, because it is, of course, almost completely flat out in these modern Formula 1 cars. He comes across the line. What is it going to be for Jost Nordijk? It is indeed P2 for the time being. Up next behind him is Tycho Hardy in the Alpha Tower. He comes to the line. It's P4 at the minute. Tamas Galler's up next. He can't get close enough to Max Wiesel. Jerry Van Bussel, has he got a time on the board? It is indeed. It's a slow 1 minute 27.7 for him. Daniel Koyer will be next up towards the line. 9th position for the time being. He's got Declan Barrett to the line. A 1 minute 27.161. A fantastic effort from him there. We got now one of the McLarens in the final sector. This is Szymon Lekomski at the moment down in 14th position, looking for a great improvement on this lap. Only P12 is going to be very gutted with his performance in this session. Let's have a look at Max Wiesel right at the back of the order as more cars come through the final few corners. Daniel Shelson puts himself into P7. One of the Alfa Romeos, I believe, Sergio Sobrino, came across the line down in P16. Rishan Jacobs in 12th. Max Wiesel to the line on pole position. A 1 minute 27.117 from him. And he did what you said, Nathan. He took back pole from whoever took it. He was the last man across the line, and he snatches pole from Declan Barrett with just under half a tenth difference between the pair of them. They line up 1 and 2 on the grid. Tamas Gall and Jost Nordijk start 3rd and 4th. Race Imtiaz 5th. Jan Halliday 6th. 7th is Daniel Shelson. Then it's Kian Gondorp and then Tycho Hardy 8th and 9th. Liam Stevens rounding out the top 10. And then a whole array of Dutch drivers in the bottom part of the grid. Daniel Koyer, Rishan Jacobs, Szymon Lekomski, Jerry Van Bussel, Legend Rosenberg and Sergio Sobrino round off this grid. But Nathan, coming into this session, incredibly close end to qualifying.
Yes, with what, I think 2 tenths separating the top 8. I think if he was at a different circuit, you know, someone like Silverstone or Spa, we'd have a very entertaining race, but I just don't think that there's going to be much moves made. Maybe on that opening couple of laps, and then maybe at the start of the second since when people have pitted, but I think apart from that, there won't be that much overtaking going on. So I think a lot of it will be down to just keeping yourself consistent on your lap times, not making stupid mistakes, not going deep into corners, not going wide, because that eventually will obviously lose you positions in the race. Obviously, Max Wiesel yet again on pole. We've only seen him take pole once, but to me, it just still doesn't seem like a surprise to see him on pole because Max is generally one of the, I'd say on this grid, probably the best qualifier. If you look at the whole grid on a whole, he's always near the top. If he's not on the top, he's definitely very close by. So I'm intrigued to see what he can do with the strategy. We know sometimes he does make a few mistakes on that strategic element of the race. Obviously, looking at his series, he's took 4 poles, but has never come home with a victory. Only once has he come home, or twice, sorry, he come home in that top 10 there. So we know that sometimes issues in the race do occur. But we'll see if tonight can be a bit of a difference, and see if he can take his first, I think, PSGL pole to pole. We'll see what he can do.
Yeah, Max Vettel, of course, last week really did struggle, but then was massively benefited, of course, by the safety car coming out, and he was able to hold off and take a decent position, I believe, in at the end. It was second, if I'm not mistaken, in that Grand Prix. It feels ages ago, even though it was just last week. But I do struggle with my memory. That's how you know, Nathan, that I'm getting old at this point. I don't even remember things that happened just last week. But having a look at how the standings were affected by that one, Tamas Gal, of course, in first at the minute on 60 points ahead of Max Wiesel in second on 40. Then Joost Noordijk just 4 points back from the German driver on 36th, who is just 1 point ahead of his fellow countryman Kian Gondorp in 4th position. Nathan, you said, of course, Kian has got to be your surprise of the season. I'm inclined to agree with you. Kian Gondorp really has stepped up from, of course, being on the PlayStation platform. He came, third in PSF1 last season, and that is relatively the same skill level, maybe a little bit lower than PC F2. I think it might actually be considerably lower than PC F2, but still, he has been able to transition so well onto this new platform and find himself in P4, potentially on the cusp of being on a title fight.
Yeah, I think, well, seeing what happens with Tamas in these next few races, we could see the likes of Max, Joost, Kian, and Simon all be involved in this title fight, potentially going into the final 5 rounds. I think, turn off for Tamas, he needs to still keep that pressure on. He's starting, I believe, I think it's in 4th position in this race, or 3rd position in this race. He's got to keep that pressure on. He's got to try and still get himself a top 5, I think, at the least. Because obviously with Max on pole, around a circuit like this, it's very easy to win from pole. So Max could add himself 16 points. If Tamas goes a bit too ballsy on that first lap, drop himself outside the points, or even have a bit of a DNF possibly, that will then bring that gap down to just 4 points. So that shows how crucial it is to constantly be keeping on top of, you know, those top 5s, those top 3s, and if you can, those victories. We know Tamas has had 3 this season. I believe earlier on the season he had a victory for somewhere like north on the grid, so we know he's very quick. We know he can fight through the pack. Starting 3rd here today. I think his intentions would be like to win, but I think at this point he needs to not be as aggressive as he would be at the start of the season. As
we're just waiting for the lobby to get set up now. Hopefully we can get in very shortly, because already, Nathan, we're about 20 minutes from where we should have finished the race. So we're about 20 minutes behind schedule at the moment. It's going to be a late one here in PSGL. We might be going almost towards 10 PM by the end of this race. It was going to be about 9:30 when the race actually does finish, maybe a little bit later on than that. So it's it's not great, but we've got to deal with it. EA servers deciding to strike whilst we're in the middle of qualifying. I think, Nathan, it's probably actually been the best timing possible, because imagine that was 25 laps into the race, or like not 25 laps, because you can kind of call the race from there, but say it was like 10 laps into the race, we probably would have had to restart the race from the very beginning. We wouldn't have done a 25% or anything. We'd have gone for the full 50%. So it's good, I think, that it happened right at the beginning of qualifying, because then, of course, we wouldn't have had to redo qualifying. We'd have to redo qualifying, but from much later on. So if anything like that could have happened, glad it happened then.
Is there an issue on my end? Because I did not have a clue what you said the whole time. He was frozen, and on the stream I was frozen, so I don't know if there's an issue my end or your end.
I think it might have been your end, unfortunately. I think everything's on the stream. Have a look. See if everything is okay on the stream, and it should hopefully be. I've just got an invite from Tamas Gal, so once the lobby gets set up and then everyone has their car sorted and all that, we can get into this race.
Yeah, and I just looked in the commentators chat, and Naomi said that they obviously didn't have a restart because they competed 75% of the race, but their race did end due to the issues with the servers. So hopefully for us that won't happen. We never know when it comes to the point of F123. Maybe at the end of the race we'll suffer the same fate as they did, but I think they've had their hiccups possibly now with the servers. We can hopefully have an hour of no server issues. Dan?
Yeah, I've just looked in the chat. This is the F2 chat about weather, and there is actually rain in the last 2 slots, so we could end this race in intermediate to wet conditions, and that could definitely throw some spice into the mixture. Starting out in the dry, then transitioning over to the wet should make for a fun race.
It could indeed. Yes, dry to wet. Now that does make the racing interesting because we'll have people pitting earlier than others, and well, I remember back actually talking about this. Season 33 was the exact same scenario. It was dry to wet F2, and it was Bogdan who took victory over Andrei Tarabukin. And I remember that because there was a safety car at the start of the race, and Bogdan pitted onto Inters. I think it was on lap 5 of the race, and I was thinking, yeah, he's messed up there. He's pitted onto Inters under a safety car. He was in the top 10. Why is he doing that? And then all of a sudden, we have another lap of safety car. 2 more people coming for Inters. I'm thinking, what's going on here? There must be an issue. Then all of a sudden, the safety car goes in. About 15 drivers stayed on their mediums, and it absolutely hammers it down 2 laps later. So everyone else started back into pits, and Andrei and Bogdan had about a 20-second lead at one point. It was chaos to say the least.
Well, I know that on this F123 game, when the rain transitions, it really does clatter it down on the circuit. So it should make for a really fun race this evening, and maybe it could catch a few guys out. Fingers crossed. It doesn't actually ruin anyone's race. Of course, we don't like to see that ever happen, but it's a possibility, and I like that uncertainty here in F2. Of course, last week was one of the most uncertain races we've had. We had so many different drivers who we thought at one point were going to win the race, and then all of a sudden the safety car comes out. Max Wiesel benefits massively, and then he might win that race. So, you know, there's just so many factors that really do make F2 special, and I think the unpredictability of that is probably the biggest one there. So, fingers crossed that rain does come at an opportune time where, you know, it sort of does sort of mix up the strategy, and some guys are going to gamble for the wets and try and run the wet setup the whole way through. Then other guys might get caught out by running the dry. We just don't know at this point, and the uncertainty of it, Nathan, is what makes it fun.
Dan?
Yeah, what?
Hello?
Yeah, hello, what?
You here? It's happened again. Am I fine to just quickly restart Discord?
Yeah, all good.
Okay, I'll be back in a second.
Well, as you can see on the left-hand side, you're the only one here. Invite a friend to start chatting. Choose an activity to play, watch, or collaborate together. I'm all by myself here in PSGL. Nathan's actually now back in the Discord call. Let me bring up that so we can get the face cams on. Hopefully all is well, Nathan. I think you're still in the lobby and everything, so it should be okay. But I've got no issues on my side of the stream, so fingers crossed that nothing happens.
It must be something my end, because I look on the right side and on the stream I do freeze for about 5 seconds and then I appear again. So yeah, it must be something to do with my internet. And I'll just send a message in the chat. Mike saying, Nathan, blink twice if Connor and Krypton are holding you hostage. Well, it's a bit of a mean thing to say because you've got to blink to see without your eyes watering. So you're holding us hostage at this point with that message.
They're meant to be like 2 quick blinks, like something like that. You know?
Yeah.
If that's what you're doing. Hi, Lani. Yeah, I see hi, Dan, in the chat. I think that's when Nathan wasn't there, unfortunately. So you got to say hello to him now. I think it's just only courteous that you say hello to Nathan. But yeah, these are the levels we stoop to, Nathan. When there's no, just saying hi to each other. It's quite nice, isn't it? Just saying hello to everyone. Hello to everyone watching at the moment. I hope your day has gone very well. Mine was quite productive. Nathan, hope your day was all good as well, and I hope all of our drivers had a great day, just for it to be ruined by Singapore wet by the end of the race.
Yes, my day wasn't that productive, to be fair. I went to college for 2 hours, came home because we had our final lesson cancelled because the tutor wasn't there. So yes, it was a 2-hour day. Started at 1, ended at 3. I wasn't that happy, to say the least, especially when it costs £5 for a return bus ticket there and back. So, yes, my bank account wasn't happy, and neither was I either. But apart from that, it was a relaxing day, we'll say the least. At least I could have a bit of a line this morning.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds great. 1 o'clock classes. Like, well, to be fair, I'm only in uni 8 hours a week, so
Not bad.
no, it's great. I mean, I've only got one
2
thing
days,
per
is
day.
it?
Huh? I'm in
Is it
for,
2 days a
I'm
week?
in the whole week, but it's like
Oh.
spread across. Like some things I'm in for an hour. I think my longest thing is 3 hours, which is my 10 a.m. class. It's not nice. It's a 10 a.m. 3 hours straight workshop of video journalism. I mean, it's great fun. I enjoy it,
Yeah.
but
Long.
but it's just long. And,
Well, at least you enjoy it. I don't know many people that enjoy uni when it comes to the work side. I think everyone enjoys more the nightlife part to it. But yeah, I think it's not very often we hear people actually enjoy the work. So at least it's a good thing, Dan.
I'm a little goody two shoes, I think. I think that's what it is. Nathan, luckily we're not going to have to talk too much about my very boring university life because we are heading into the race. We will join you trackside after a quick word from our sponsors at GT Omega. Welcome back, trackside everyone, here in Singapore, getting ready for the start of this race. Should be an incredibly fun event. Only 16 drivers, unfortunately, on the grid today, but with rain impending around about lap number 20 sort of thing, should be a very hellacious ride for us all this evening. We're about to get underway. Nathan, before we start, what are your top 3 predictions?
Max Wiesel, Tamashgal, and Joost Noordijk. Top 3 in the championship. There we are. Make it simple. I can't remember where people are on the grid, so.
Neither can I. It's been a very long break between the very top of, between qualifying and now. But one thing that I do know is that Max Wiesel starts alongside Declan Barrett, who's wasted no time getting back into the swing of things here in F2. How will he cope from second on the grid? We are underway here in Singapore, and it looks to be a good start from Max Wiesel, heading down in towards turn number 1, already going to be able to clear Declan Barrett. Joost Noordijk further back behind, getting through on Tamas Gal to take P3 from him. Liam Stevens doing battle with Daniel Coyer as there's a Williams and an Aston Martin running side by side. That is Jan Halliday all over the rear of Race Imtiaz, who's having to look in his own mirrors at Daniel Shelson in behind. But at the end of the first sector, Max Wiesel with a great start ahead of Declan Barrett as they head now in towards sector 2.
Yeah, I was watching the back with Daniel Coyer's Race Imtiaz gets himself into pole ahead of Tamashgal on the medium tyres, meaning he will have that advantage at the start. We've got the 2 Mercedes further back going to battle. Russian Jacobs ahead of his teammate Liam Stevens, so they fight side by side. And further back we've got Jerry Sergio Legend going 3 wide in towards this next section. Look, they all filter out as they come through, because 3 wide around this circuit never works anywhere on this circuit. They all fly down in towards the old Singapore Sting section. Great start from Max Wiesel and Declan Barrett at the front, and Joost Noordijk in 3rd position. We need Tamas to get back into 2nd, and then my prediction will be correct. We head down towards turn 14, and Race Imtiaz have got an 8/10 gap to Joost Noordijk, so we need to try and put his foot down a little bit more and close that gap down, because starting those mediums you really want to get an advantage, not a disadvantage. As you can see, Race is nearly already out that 1 second gap to the top 3. Now that is good for the top 3, but no one else behind.
Yeah, Race Imtiaz already struggling at the minute despite being on the medium tyres. Meanwhile, Daniel Shelson further back behind is all over the rear of Jan Halliday. Both of these two on a set of the hards, and they've got to get a move on because there's 2 cars just on the mediums right behind. Tycho Hardy hassling the rear of Daniel Shelson, heading down in towards turn number 1. A great exit for Tycho Hardy. Into the braking zone they go, and Tycho Hardy will get himself ahead and into P7, getting himself 1 car clear of Daniel Coyer, who's also on the mediums. Only 3 drivers starting on this set, and they're all a part of F7R, so I wonder what sort of strategies are at play there. But still at the front of the order, Max Wiesel leading from Declan Barrett. Joost Noordijk in 3rd. It seems like Race Imtiaz has been able to get closer to the rear now of that top 3. He's not going to get dropped from DRS at this point in the Grand Prix, as Daniel Coy is now up into 8th position with a purple Sector 1. So it seems like Nathan, very clean start, I've got to say.
Yeah, for Singapore, it's not often you see such a clean start. We've had no incidents at all along this circuit for the whole first 2 laps, so that is very great to see between all the drivers. Great racecraft, especially around very tight street circuit like this. We'll see if any overtakes do start to form once we get that DRS, which will be opening next lap. So obviously we've got Declan Barrett 5 tenths back from Max Wiesel, so we'll see if we get him into the lead when that DRS opens. But then again, that gap between Max and Declan's 5 tenths. Normally you don't gain 5 tenths in any of the straights on these circuits, so I don't think we'll see too much pressure there from the back of the Aston Martin on Max Wiesel. Further back, we can see Togo Hardy now looking to gain in on Jan Halliday to put himself into 6th position. He's gaining in on the Aston Martin, but not close enough in towards the break zone at turn 16. So if he wants to get any move done, which will most likely be down towards turn 1, where last lap he got himself back past Daniel Kjelsen for what was P7 at the time. They all fly through out of the final corner, down towards turn 1 again. Further back, we can see Sabrino get ahead of Joe Van Bussels. He made a bit of an incident. No, he's in the pits. Joe Van Bussels in the pits already. Now, he's either got damage or, well, I'm not quite sure what else it could be.
A very early stop there from Joe Van Bussel. We'll have a look at him in the pit lane, see what's gone wrong with the AlphaTauri driver there. I can see a front wing is being prepared, so indeed damage to Joe Van Bussel. His day is going from bad to worse. He's going to be completely disconnected from the pack and will have no DRS and really no chance to get back into this race unless a safety car is called at some point. We'll have to wait and see how this race pans out for him. Meanwhile, Race Imtiaz is all over the rear of Joost Noordijk for P3 at the minute. DRS, of course, has now been enabled, but they're in one big train at the minute, so really the only driver that's actually going to be benefiting from the drag reductive system is Declan Barrett, running in behind Max Wiesel. Of course, Max Wiesel leading this race, got no one in front of him, won't be able to utilise that DRS, but Max has done a great job of clearing a gap between himself and Declan, almost to the point of 1 second and out of that DRS range, with, of course, down this straight towards turn number 14. Declan Barrett does get able to bring himself into that 1 second window a little bit cleaner there, but I'd say he's got to look more towards his mirrors rather than in front of him.
Yeah, definitely, because he's actually losing time down that straight in towards turn number 16. He gained, I think, it was about half a tenth there on the back of Max Wiesel. He's had a bit of a snappy final set. The gap's just over a second now. Max Wiesel has the chance to check out from the field, depending what Declan can do down towards turn 1. Did he get that DRS? No, we didn't. No DRS for Declan Barrett there in the detection zone. So now Max needs to try and run away. He knows he's got the advantage over the Aston Martin. He's struggling more and more. You can see Declan going a little bit wide, a little bit deep in other corners. The gap's 8.5 tenths, 9.5 tenths. We'll see if Max can get it down towards turn 7. There will be a bit of DRS, I think, in towards this next corner, at least somewhere on the circuit. I can't exactly remember where the DRS zones are. It is down towards turn number 7. Declan just about did get that DRS. When he hit the DRS point, he was less than a second, but obviously was within that second when they hit the detection zone. Heading down in towards turn 7 yet again. Race Imtiaz on the back of Joost Noordijk, who's also trying to get through on Declan Barrett, so we could have a great battle for the first, second, third and fourth as this race unfolds. Tamas Gal, as I said before, not really too bothered about pushing hard. He just sitting where he is in that 5th position, hasn't got to worry about those behind, hasn't got to worry about what's going on ahead. He can just run his race, sit in that DRS and just pull himself along, which is what I think his ideal scenario would be. The two on the mediums, Tycho and Daniel, they're making inroads to Jan Halliday, but not enough to force a move or anything. So they kind of think stuck where they are for now. Jan goes a little bit wide. Does that give Tycho a decent exit? Tycho has a decent exit, but then again, he's not got much battery to use down towards turn 14, so he can't give himself any sort of advantage on the Aston Martin driver as they head down towards turn 16 on lap 4 of 31. This race just feels like, Dan, it's never going to end.
No, it's a very long race, so I think everyone's got to get very comfortable watching at home for the Singapore Grand Prix. And one thing that's very interesting to me is that Declan Barrett's got such a sudden fall off in pace when it comes to a race scenario. Max Wiesel is comfortably quicker than him at the minute, and it's really only the DRS that is allowing for Declan Barrett to stay within this sort of 1 second, half a second window that he's found himself in at the minute. He's got a good run on this last lap, so maybe he's just settling into the groove. But one thing I'm thinking of is possibly a more attuned setup towards the wet conditions in that Aston Martin. It might make sense that is why he is slower. Max Wiesel could be running more of a dry setup here, but then once that rain hits, Declan could be quicker than Max Wiesel. We're going to find out in the next 15 laps or so when the rain is expected to hit, but it seems like everything's calmed down now. No one's really making any moves. They're just going to follow along in a train, settle into a rhythm in this Grand Prix and try and nurse these tyres as much as they can until the wets hit. Yeah,
which, as I said before, should be around lap 20-ish if it's the last two spots, so we'll see how going to see if we can get some confirmation from someone in the chat or possibly in Discord to give us a bit of an idea of when we expect to see the conditions change. Racing has been a little bit deep then towards the hairpin, went a little bit wide on entry and had a really poor exit. As you can see now, he's lost a lot of time to the back of Yost. That brings Tamashka a little bit closer in towards Battle as they head down towards turn 14. To the right hander they go. Tamash has got a decent run. Has he got enough to make a move down towards turn 16? He hasn't. But I've noticed, surprisingly, Dan, a lot of drivers have used quite a lot of battery. I'm looking at Tamash, he's got about 40%. Race also in around that 30% battery. So a lot of drivers using all their battery at the start. That could also hamper them once that rain arrives and once they need to use a bit more of that battery power in those wet conditions.
I wonder if it's just because they're utilising it so much, because it's actually quite easy to charge up the battery around here. There's plenty of heavy braking zones, so lots of areas to recharge the battery. So when you're not pushing to catch up to your rivals, then you can easily regen the battery. And of course, in the wet conditions, ERS isn't as effective, so maybe they're being a little bit more liberal with their usage now, because it's not really going to impact them much later on in the race. Of course, both of, all of these drivers, all 16 of them, know vast amounts more than you and I, Nathan, on this F123 game. One thing I have noticed though is that Declan Barrett has gotten a lot closer to Max Wiesel. Seems like he's picked up the pace now. Maybe Max Wiesel's also beginning to hold off ever so slightly and just sort of sandbag, try and save these hard tyres as long as he can into this race, so once the wet hits he won't have to pit onto a set of the softs or the mediums and not to run a two-stop race. But it seems like we're in for the long haul in this one. Don't know how interesting the remaining portion of this Grand Prix really is going to be. So I think it's just a waiting game, Nathan, as to when we actually get some interesting play here.
Yeah, I've been told by someone in Discord, I believe his engineer and a couple of drivers here today, said that it will be around lap 25 is when the rain arrives, and they'll probably go into a set of intermediate tyres. Oh, so that could be before or after that lap 25, so we'll see what happens until then. And I think for the next week, we've got probably quite a boring stint of racing. But the thing that questions me is the medium runners. They're going to have to take those tyres 20-ish laps at least before the rain arrives. Will they make it to that point before they completely drop off and end up further back? I feel like maybe that could be a little bit of a bad call, couldn't it, those going onto the mediums at the start of the race?
It's a really odd strategy call there to go onto the mediums when there's rain coming on lap number 25. And at that point, the hards also do struggle to actually keep up at that point. Are they thinking maybe that no one's going to be able to get to the wet conditions, so why not go on the quicker tyres so everyone is two-stopping and you're in a better position? I don't know. They've not really made that many positions up on this set of the tyres. It's Race Imtiaz making up one place, getting through on Tamash Gal. Tycho Hardy's made up 2 spots, and Daniel Koyer's made up 3. So really, it's not worked out too much in their favour. It's a very risky strategy that they're taking here. But is it going to work out? I'm not too sure. I think maybe this is why Max Wiesel's backed off the pace, because he wants to save these hard tyres as long as he can to get to that lap 25 mark, so he can stay on this hard until that point. It's a shame that that is the case, Nathan. Normally we would be seeing a lot more battling, especially with this F2 grid, but I think we gotta wait it out as patiently as we can.
Yeah, and it's great to see that the drivers here on this grid can go calm at some points when they need to. Normally the drivers at any position are always looking to make moves, but here they've been a little bit more sane than usual and are backing off and not making silly dive bombs in towards the braking zones. The only driver that's close to anyone on this circuit at the moment is Tycho Hardy. He's about 2.5 tenths back from Jan Halliday as they went in towards turn 16, but has lost about a tenth of a second as they head through towards turns 18 and 19. But Jan, yet again, going a little bit wide there at the final corner. That's not what he wants to do in the Aston Martin. He's got an 8-10 gap now to the back of Tamash Gal. That gap needs to come down. He could be at the risk of losing that 1 second gap. And once that DRS has gone, that is when Tycho Hardy can reel in the Aston Martin and make that move. And also Daniel Koyer could possibly follow suit if they can execute it correctly. So they come through in towards turn number 5 to the right hand, which is yet again quite a difficult braking zone and difficult to get on the throttle. So the drivers so far doing a great job in that corner not to make mistakes. And further up we can see Declan Barrett probably closest to Max Wiesel than he has been since the start line. He was about 10.5 back in towards the braking zone at Memorial Corner, so we'll see if he will then look to shape up a move. It'd be nice to see him move for the lead. But then again, in these conditions, it means nothing. We don't know what's going to happen. So we could see someone take the lead from 3rd, and by the end of the race, they could be at the bottom if they didn't pit at the right time for Inters.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a big waiting game that we're playing at the minute. I was watching Tycho Hardy riding on board with him actually heading through the Raffles Boulevard, and even he was pulling out the slipstream to cool the car and not close too much to Jan Halliday. So I think they're all inhibiting their pace, trying to go as long as possible on their set of the tyres until that rain hits. It seems like I'm saying that every other sentence, that it's just all about the rain here, because it's so drastic. When the rain starts to come down, it completely changes the conditions within a lap of it happening. Although Tycho Hardy is close to the rear of Jan Halliday, surely it's not going to hurt to go for one move, maybe make this race just a little bit more interesting than it has been thus far, as we ride on board with Tycho Hardy heading in towards turn number 1. Doesn't seem like he's got any plans to go for a move this time by, so we're going to have to wait for a few more laps, hopefully, until we start to see moves. But already on lap number 9 of 31. It is a long race here in Singapore. And hopefully, after this one's done, we don't have to come back here for at least another game cycle.
Yes, indeed. As I said before, it's only our third race here. Season 30, Season 33, and now here in Season 35. And I'm just watching Legend Rosenberg, and I know what's happening, but he's losing a lot of pace off the back of the field. 2.5 seconds back, hasn't got any noticeable damage on his car. It just seems like maybe he hasn't done too much practice. He's going a little bit too early in the throttle. He's going a little bit deep into corners. I just think that so far this is not Legend Rosenberg's track whatsoever. He's already dropped 4 tenths in that first sector alone on the back of Sergio Sereno, who's also having a bit of a dismal race, down in 14th position. He's the race coach driver. Obviously, in past weeks we have seen him take points positions as Legend Rosenberg gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings as they all head down in towards the hairpin. And Jerry Van Bussel obviously making that pit stop earlier on. Maybe he could make it to the end when the rain comes with those tyres. Maybe he could end up winning. We never know.
It's possible. I mean, Jerry Van Bussel, he's not out of it now. I mean, he's still going, still trucking here, and I do respect that greatly. But, you know, it's not looking all that good for him. It looks like it's a really bad gap as well, because he's 30 seconds off the pace, but it's actually a very long pit stop here in Singapore, so you do typically lose quite a lot of time. Also, he's not using any DRS on any cars in front of him, so yeah, Jerry Van Bussel, it'd be a very boring experience to be driving just by yourself. I don't know how league racers do it. I would just think to retire as soon as anything goes wrong, because it's so hard to make a comeback on this game. So all the admiration in the world that I have goes to Jerry Van Bussel at the minute for continuing along in this race. Meanwhile, Declan Barrett once again is closing to the back of Max Wiesel. Let's have a look at the ERS situations. Both of them are on 71% at the minute. Now, it's interesting because Declan Barrett actually had considerably less at the beginning of this race than Max Wiesel, so it just shows the power of actually following along in the wheel tracks of another car. When it comes to ERS management, you can actually recharge the battery a lot quicker when you're following another car as opposed to leading this Grand Prix, which is why we see, Nathan, lots of drivers tend to prefer to follow in second position rather than lead a Grand Prix, and I think that is why the Declan's been happy to just sit back.
Yeah, because I think if there wasn't an advantage of being in second, Declan would have already flew past Max Wiesel, and these two would have probably fought every single lap so far, because with the battery being used, Declan probably could get past Max on multiple occasions. Obviously, there was points where into the braking zone he was only 2 tenths back from the Red Bull, so he has had opportunity to take the lead, but there's no point pushing it. It is better to be in second position. Max isn't going to fight to be in second, either if he's in the lead or stay in the lead. We know around this circuit you can't really make overtakes anyway, so he can just control the pack. Obviously, Max will use his ERS when he needs to. The gap's 5 tenths. If Declan brings it down, Max will think, right, we'll use about 5% battery on this straight, just, you know, limit that risk of Declan overtaking him. It's simple at the moment. Max is just all about that ERS management and you just using it when he needs to. Declan, yet again, he can just push when he wants to. If he doesn't need to push, he won't use his ERS, so he puts himself in a decent situation in that regard. You can see further back, Sordot's got 90%. He's used absolutely none of it, pretty much. He's probably used it on a couple of the corners or maybe a couple of straights just to defend a little bit from Race Imtiaz, who's used a lot more. He's on about, I think if I'll read it, they're 45%, so he's used quite a lot compared to the top three, but then again, he spent the first half of the race push, trying to get moves. Obviously that hasn't happened, hence why now he's on that deficit at the battery. As you can see further back, like of Tamash and Jan, they're around that 70% mark as well. No one's really doing much at all, they're just driving. It's all about management at this stage. It's not about speed, it's not about pace, it's just about managing everything. Tyres, ERS, and obviously using that DRS as well as effective as you can down those back straights. And well, everyone apart from Legend and Jerry are in that DRS train. The top 14, Max Wiesel all the way down to Sergio Sereno, who's only just exited the hairpin, and Max has just headed down in towards that brake zone at turn 14. So it's a long DRS train as well around this circuit. So anyone in that mid pack have got no way at all of really making a move. And if they do, hats off, because I don't know how I could find a way through anyone with that really strong DRS strain.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really been the most exciting race thus far. We've not had an overtake in a long time. However, Race Imtiaz into the box, as is that Tycho Hardy and Daniel Koya. Can't help but think that this is a coordinated move from all the F7R drivers coming into the pit lane at the end of lap number 12, and they definitely could have gone longer onto another set of the mediums for the Ferrari driver of Daniel Koya. I'd imagine then for AlphaTauri and Williams, it is going to be the same story. Indeed, it is. They are going on to a set of the mediums, trying to do a two-stopper in this Grand Prix. Now, those hards in the next few laps, Nathan, they are going to drop off quite substantially, and that is when these guys can make up time. But it's a very big gamble, very big risk that all three of these drivers are taking. We'll see if it works out for them.
Well, we will. Well, obviously, the news I had is that the rain comes around lap 25, so that's what, 13 laps for them to close in a 17-second gap on those 11-lap-old hards. Would it work? Possibly. It could also fail terribly if the rain comes a little bit earlier than predicted, and they could end up being Ross at the back, 13th, 14th, 15th, and no chance of getting points when Race Imtiaz had his best qualifying of the season, was on for his best points as he started in around that 5th position. Let's hope that gamble works, because I think if anyone, I want that gamble to work. I want it to work for Race Imtiaz. He's been unfortunate on many occasions this season with incidents. I think he deserves some well-deserved points here tonight. And obviously, the issue that has caused for Daniel Kjeldsen is he's now got a 1.3-second gap to Jan Halliday. So he's got to push a little bit more than he would have liked to, use a bit more battery, and use a bit more tyres than he would have liked to close that gap down to 1 second. And also, Keane Gondorp nearly losing that 1 second, has lost that 1 second gap too. Daniel in towards that middle set, so now we could see a bit more of a spread grid if that is the case. Yep, hello, that's what happened.
They're all in. They're all in. Max Wiesel, well, yeah, the top three all coming into the pit lane. Very interesting call for them. Sergio Sabrino's also come into the pits, and he's got a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane there. But wow, big scenes here already. Multiple drivers come into the pits for the mediums. They have realized these hards aren't going to last until lap number 25. So now all of the F7R drivers going to look like geniuses. And I was actually thinking before these pit stops happened, this race wasn't a great it wasn't a great sort of advertisement for F7R, as now Race Imtiaz off the exit of turn number 2 is going to slot himself in between Max Wiesel and Declan Barrett. Declan Barrett close to the back of the Williams, but it's not going to be enough. Is now in towards the Raffles Boulevard. They go both. Race Imtiaz and Declan Barrett going to have DRS. Race Imtiaz looking to go for the move on Max Wiesel, heading in towards turn number 7. Will go up the inside and has made this strategy work an absolute treat. Going from what was a net P4, P5, now to net lead in this Grand Prix.
Well, it's in the commentator's curse in reverse this time. I said I wanted it to work, and for Race Imtiaz, it totally has worked at this point in the race. I've got a 13-second gap to Legend Rosebud, so that's about 17 seconds to the front train. With it now being Tamas Gale, Jan Halliday and Daniel Kjeldsen, the top three, they, I presume, will also come to this, but I think maybe a couple of the drivers could stay out and see if something can work there, and try and hope that longer strategy going to that lap 25 on the hards could work. I doubt it will, but we'll see what other drivers choose to do. Obviously, we can see further back, we've got Declan Barrett also getting in on the back of Maxi. So we've had a bit of battling. I think we've had one of only taster battle in this whole race. We'll see what happens when it all comes down, or if more battling starts to brew. We'll see if any of the top guys go into the pits. None of them do. They all stay out on circuit. Legend Roseberg also staying out. So at the moment, it's going to be the top 8 on the hards. The rest down, apart from Jay Van Bussel, on the new mediums. Now it's time to see which strategy will be in the favoured position.
This is the excitement that we needed here. Race Imtiaz now with the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. We needed this uncertainty that I was talking about before, because now what is the best strategy to be on? Is it the two-stop, pitting onto the mediums and trying to undercut what all these hard runners are doing who are extending this stint? We don't know what the better strategy is at this point, and I am here for it, as now Max Wiesel on the back of Race Imtiaz will look to the inside the same way that happened to him last lap, and he will retake the net lead. Well, that is a big quotation mark there, net lead. For the time being, we'll say P9 now for Max Wiesel, the leading medium runner at this point in this race. Lap number 14, Nathan, we're about 10 laps away now from that wet weather that is touted to be hitting around that point. Should be very exciting.
Yeah, it should be. Look how quick that gap has come down, though, to Legend Rosenberg. It's now 10 seconds. Earlier on, it was 12.5. So that gap has come down by over, I think, a second and a half, 2 seconds on this lap alone. So they are a lot quicker than these on the older hard. So we'll see what battling can be given as the race gets on. But actually, race has lost a lot of time to the back of Max Wiesel. That gap 7/10 as they head down in towards turn 14. So maybe now Max has unleashed the back of that. Williams has got himself ahead, and now his aim will probably be to try and get a second ahead and get rid of that DRS threat of all those behind and just try and dispatch them all. Obviously, Declan Barrett you can see closing in along with Tycho Hardy, and you have Snorlaku who's popped himself in the middle of the two F7Rs of Tycho and Daniel. Well, I think, honestly, you can't really call what's going to be the better strategy because both of them had their pros and cons. Normally, you'd say one looks better, but at the moment, with the rate these mediums are closing in, I think they're able to probably try and close in and be in this battle heavily by the time the rain arrives in 10 laps-ish time.
Absolutely, and now the gap has come down drastically in just one lap between Legend Rosenberg and now Max Wiesel. It's 7.5 seconds. It was 10 seconds last lap by. I think Legend might have made a mistake because the gap was also, I think, increased to Szymon Lekomski. So I'm not too sure what's happened there with Legend Rosenberg. He's really had a disappointing season, it has to be said. Legend Rosenberg just has had no pace whatsoever, and I think he's really got to pick it up if he wants to keep this spot in F2, because I know how many good drivers there are in F3 further down who are, fighting to take his spot in F2. So Legend Rosenberg, he's got to pick it up, and so does Race Imtiaz, because he has actually lost the DRS now to Max Wiesel, which is going to leave him vulnerable to Declan Barrett. We'll ride on board with Declan heading down this straight. It's not a very long DRS straight, and so Declan's not going to be close enough to go for the move this time by, potentially, though. Off the exit this corner, if he uses some of his battery to try and go for a move, it doesn't seem like it at this point, so Declan might have to wait maybe in towards turn number 1 to make this move stick, but the gap between Max and Race is just getting bigger and bigger as now Rishan Jacobs and Keen Gondorp having their own scrap at the front of the order. Battles all where you see. It's great to see here in F2. Here's Declan Barrett then going for the move, getting himself into P10.
Yeah, but now got a 1.6 second gap to Max, so Max has checked out. He's done what he needed to do. He's got to keep that gap consistent ahead of Declan Barrett and just try and pull away more and more. That gap to Legend Rosenberg, 3.5 seconds, which means his gap to that pack is 13 seconds. That has come down in the last 2 laps by 5 seconds, so they're roughly 2 seconds a lap quicker than all those ahead. Maybe they're going to get in a little bit quicker than I thought. I was thinking maybe lap 22, 23, but at this point, by lap 20, they'll certainly be involved in this battle for the lead. As we can see now, Max Wiesel 2.5 seconds to the back of Legend Rosenberg. That, I think, should be quite an easy move as well. You can see Legend just hasn't got much pace in that Haas so far. This race has got a penalty. 5 seconds off the, at the moment, lead train. Yeah, I just don't think anything's going to work here for Legend Rosenberg here tonight. As we can see, Max gaining 1.7 seconds. Declan has gained that gap by about 0.2 of a second on that lap. So we'll see if Declan can try and pop himself back into that DRS gap. And now we know Legend is in, obviously, F7R. We'll see. Does he try and hold up the likes of Max and Declan for Brace, Tycho and Daniel? We'll see what happens there. Also, I think there's only one F7R in that top 7 being Keaton Gonduk. So we'll see if Legend plays a team game or if he thinks, right, yeah, that battle is certainly not for me.
Kian Gondorp and Rishan Jacobs has come into the pit lane. Very interesting from Rishan to come into the pits now for a set of the mediums. Why? Why so late? For Rishan Jacobs, he's going to strap on that medium. He's going to be way behind anyone else at this point. I don't think he's going to be able to make the most of the tyres. Meanwhile, Max Wiesel all over the back of Legend Rosenberg. Legend not giving up this position too easily here and is holding up Max Wiesel at this point. And this is really going to be inhibiting the performance of the German driver. But off the exit of turn number 5, the pace is undeniable. Legend Rosenberg cannot keep him behind forever, and Max Wiesel will make that move stick in now towards turn number 7. Great stuff from him there. And the great thing is, I think, Nathan, these medium tyres are only just hitting their prime. They're only 4 laps old for Max Wiesel. He's 6.5 seconds to the back of Szymon Lekomski. To Tamas Gał, it is 9.5 seconds, which is incredible how much he's gained in just the last lap. And so I think Max Wiesel might have hit the nail on the head with this strategy.
He will, and now Declan Barrett tries to fight his way through ahead of the Haas. Can't do anything, he's stuck behind Legend for there. That gap gone up to 1.7 seconds. That is what Max needed. It's 1.8 seconds. Declan needs to get a move. He needs to get something sorted down towards turn 14. Unleashes the battery and he's back ahead now of Legend Rosenberg. And the gap was 1.6 seconds. Came down after Legend got hold. Max got hold up by Legend. Went back down to a second, now back up to 1.8 seconds as they enter turn 16. Race Empty has now got to look, try and get ahead of his teammates, and you can see a little bit of defence there from Legendary taking out the Williams in towards there, and also he's holding up his teammates here at this rate. Togo Hardy needs to get a bit of... Oh, and Max gets a 3-second penalty. Max Wiesel, our race leader, with a 3-second time penalty as Togo Hardy takes back the position from Legend Rosenberg. And to be fair, even though the teammates, Togo's not letting anything go at all as Rio Sunright makes his way through on his on-track teammate, and further back Daniel Cairo also looking for him as Sergio Sobrino gets a 3-second time penalty. Penalties galore on lap 18 of 31.
Oh, Max Wiesel, that is clumsy stuff from him there to get a penalty when he's in such a good position to potentially be winning this Grand Prix. Meanwhile, elbows are out further up ahead, just ahead of actually Max Wiesel. Kian Gondorp and Szymon Lekomski having their own individual scrap for P5, sacrificing a lot of time. They are not realising the threat that is the medium runners. They are gaining at a rate of knots. Now, Max Wiesel only 3 seconds to the rear of Kian Gondorp. And so it's incredible gains that Max Wiesel's made at the minute. The rain is imminent in the next maybe 6-7 laps at this point, so still plenty of time for these medium tyres to be working out here. But that penalty really is going to hurt him. It seems like all the battling sort of subsided at the minute. Maybe in the next few laps when everyone closes back up, we'll see more scrapping. And once Max Wiesel's onto the rear of Kian Gondorp, you can see how close it is now. Almost Max Wiesel is into that 1 second window that he needs to take DRS on the Alfa Romeo ahead of Nathan. That is when he gets into that DRS train. It gets as interesting as possible. Oh, it's raining.
Yeah, now. Oh.
Woo!
Well, I just got told on Discord that it's coming in 5 minutes. Well, I guess that message is wrong. It's here now, or at least very lost at the moment now. The good thing is these new medium tyres will be better. They've got more grip than the old hard, so they will be better in these conditions where it's not quite inters, but it's the rain side. But in turn 4, there's no rain at all. What's going on?
It's very light at the minute.
It's gone. It's really light, isn't it? So at this point, I still think that the slicks are more than stronger, and you can see that gap now to King going up between Max Wiesel and him is 0.7 of a second as they head in towards Memorial Corner. Then at Stamford, the rain, you can see a little bit more imminent in the sky, coming down a little bit more there at this middle slow part of the track, and we'll see now Max be quicker than ever. He's on the better tyres in the wets. That is automatically going to put him right on the back of King Gondorp. They head down towards the sling, and he's already a 10th back.
And Jerry Van Bussel's coming to the pit lane, fitted on a set of the intermediate tyres. Very early gamble, I'd say, from Jerry there. And it seems like, Nathan, your prediction was right, as now Max Wiesel's all over the rear of Kian Gondorp. Looked to pull his best impression of Felipe Massa into that corner. Didn't work out that time. By DRS is still enabled on circuit. The rain is very light and there's not much coverage on the circuit, but already Max Wiesel is down on his best lap thus far by about 3 seconds in the first and second sector. He's got to get a move on. He's using the battery on the back of Kian Gondorp. Will go up the inside now in towards this braking zone, and now with the rain coming earlier than we expected, it seems like the best strategy was actually to stay on the set of the hard compound tyres, because Max Wiesel was going to struggle to catch up. These mediums, though, they should be quicker in these very light rain conditions than those hards, so it's not all lost for him. Declan Barrett is through on Kian Gondorp. These hards, they're going to be crawling around the circuit. Legend Rosenberg gets himself a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. There's Max Wiesel at the inside and towards turn number 5, and he's got himself back into 5th.
Yeah, it's now do or die for Max Wiesel. He needs to try and get in quickly within this next lap because he needs to make this work. He was leading the race earlier on before he decided he will pit. He's now got a 1.6 second gap to Liam Stevens, who's in that top 4. Now we'll see, is it going to be the best strategy for those on the hards? Tamas Gala, championship leader, going with that different strategy too. Max Wiesel, we'll see what happens. These two are effectively our championship protagonists, Max Wiesel and Tamas Gala. We'll see which strategy will be the most favoured. Run that gap only coming down by a couple of tenths actually. Barrett back ahead of Lekomski. Lekomski must have tried to fight back, otherwise that was King Gondorp, I think, at turn 1, so no. It was just practically himself ahead of the McLaren as they head down in towards the hairpin, and well, definitely you can see getting his elbows out, he knows how much it means to get that gap down to the top 5. Max Wiesel's got a 7/10 gap to Liam Stevens on this lap. We'll see, when do they all start to go into the pits for intermediates? It's got to be surely in the next lap or so, hasn't it, where they start to feel it?
I don't know. Normally the best indication of when the intermediates are the quicker tyres, when we actually get word from race control that DRS has been disabled, and that isn't the case at the minute. As Joost Noordijk continues his charge up the field, gets through on Kian Gondorp. It seems like one car up ahead, 2 pulling into the pit lane. That is your race leader, Tamas Gao and Liam Stevens coming into the box as I believe Shemalakomsky as well is coming into the pit lane. Indeed, he is. So all three of them going onto a set of the intermediate tyres, presumably. Rishan Jacobs, so questionable. Why is he coming to the pit lane for a set of the mediums when as soon as he did, the rain began to hit? It was just, it makes no sense whatsoever at this point. Meanwhile, Daniel Shelson is making the move on Jan Halliday. Will get through down the inside at turn number 6. We'll have that move done by turn number 7. We're coming up towards this time by Nathan. 10 laps to go. Still don't know what's quicker.
Yeah, I think at this point, it's hard to tell. We'll look at Tamás Gály. You can see that he's got 11.6 second gap. He's got up and up, but he needs to get them warmed up, doesn't he? So we'll see when that gap comes down. You can see now Max Wiesel right at the back of Jan Halliday. That gap 0.2 of a second as they head in towards the break zone at the old Singapore Sling section, which I believe is still called the Singapore Sling section to this day. Bit of a tongue twister that line is. You can see Max looking to move up the inside of the hairpin. Oh, bit of contact between him and the Aston Martin as they head through. And who's going to get the better exit? Surely Maxwell on those better tyres. He has got a decent exit. Crooks back in for a little bit of slipstream to the outside. On he goes, using that battery. Can he get himself round the outside of Jan Halliday in towards turn 14? He certainly can. Brilliant move there from the Red Bull. Now needs to try and gain him back to Daniel Kjellson. The rain's coming down more and more. When do they decide to pit? I think surely you'll see some pit in this lap because you can see the raindrops starting to form on the circuit, and that's normally when you also get an indication, Dan, of when that rain's getting heavier.
Felt like a bit of a push past there, not gonna lie, from Max Wiesel going into the back of Jan Halliday. Daniel Shelson and Jan both coming into the pit lane. The medium still, I'd say, in working condition at the moment. Tamás Gál's losing time to Rishan Jacobs at the minute. So I think maybe it's going to be a roundabout even between the older mediums at this point and then the fresh intermediates. Daniel Shelson, Jan Halliday all into the box. Race Imtiaz as well. So they're all going onto a set. Joost Noordijk is onto a set of the intermediates, and it's going to be interesting to see where they come out in relation to Tamás Gál. Tamás Gál is just now coming down in towards turn number 1. Daniel Shelson is coming off the exit of the pit lane. It looks like Tamás Gál has just been able to clear Daniel Shelson, and Daniel Shelson was ahead of Max Wiesel. So I think Tamás Gál is still leading this race here.
Usually the gap's 24 seconds between Max Wiesel and Tamás Gál. The pit stop, I think, is around that 24-ish second gap. It might be a little bit more, so I think at this point Tamás is probably still in that better condition. That gap now between Tamás and Rish, I'm just keeping an eye on that. It's coming down a little bit, 24.495. I don't know. It's going up and down, isn't it? So it's, I think they're literally at the crossover of both of them are the same, aren't they? I think at this point, Dan. As you can see, I saw like having a battle with Shimlakovsky in towards turn 9.
A little bit of contact between the pair of them in towards that corner. Joost Noordijk will have the inside, but they're still wheel to wheel. A great side-by-side battling, but they're banging tyres off the exit of all the corners. Now they're going to run side-by-side still in towards the Singapore Sling. Joost Noordijk will get the better of Szymon Lakomski for this time by, but I think now is the time to come into the pit lane. The gap between Tamás Gál and Rishan Jacobs really is beginning to close now, so I think Max Wiesel has got to come indeed in now to the pit lane. Declan Barrett will follow through. Tycho Hardy will see what his option is. I believe, yes, he will. Daniel Coyle, all of these guys now finally deciding to take off this set of the mediums. It was a great strategy, worked out incredibly. It would have worked even better if the rain came later than it did. Max Wiesel then exiting the pit lane. We'll have a look at where Tamás Gál emerges in comparison to the rest of this pack. Tamás now through the final corners. Max Wiesel exiting the pit lane now. I think Tamás comfortably will be ahead.
Be close, yeah, he has got ahead, so has Yeltsin and Liam Stevens into the top 4. Now, Liam Stevens having a great run here in this race, and Rishan, I think he tried staying out on these mediums to take them to the end, but it's not going to work. That gap's come down by about 3 seconds, I think, in the last couple of laps now too. Rishan Jacobs, so he tried that medium strategy all the way to the end, but I just don't think at this point it will work. At this point in the race, further back, we can see now we've got Tamás Gál technically in that net lead. We've got Daniel in second and Liam Stevens in that top 3. Jan Halliday as well, doing a decent job in the Aston Martin, but this isn't good for Max Wiesel. With that penalty, that will pop him down to currently P9 after starting on pole. Yet again, that curse there for Max Wiesel.
You know what? No, I think the gap is, I think at its greatest between Rishan Jacobs and Tamás Gál was about 12 seconds. Now is the point where Tamás is going to close in a rate of knots to Rishan Jacobs, but the idea of it was pretty good, I'd say, for Tamás, but just riding on board with the Alpine, you can see all of the standing water beginning to form on the circuit. I don't think we're going to get any wet conditions, but the intermediate certainly is what we're looking at. Still though, DRS is enabled at this point in the Grand Prix, and actually Daniel Shelton is all over the rear of Tamas Gown's going to have a half look to the inside. Very close to contact between the pair of them. Daniel Shelton stuck his nose in there, thought about going for the move, but decided to back out of that one. But it just shows that the power that the DRS still holds at the minute, once that gets disabled, it's going to be a lot harder for Daniel to go for the moves.
Oh, indeed it will be. I think the moves now as Russian enters the pits, so obviously tried that strategy, didn't work. I think he'll come out in P13. But I think we could have a decent battle still between Tamas and Daniel, because they're still going to get their elbows out. When that DRS probably being disabled soon, if they're running closer and closer, we will see some more risks, I think, for that P1 and P2. And Tamas looking to take his 4th victory of 7 races this season, still in dominant form, and DRS has just been disabled now. So we now know it is pretty much the interconditions on this circuit. And the top 3, I'd say apart from the top 2, it's quite Liam Stevens back up there, isn't it, in the top? He's only scored 11 points this season. Going to be looking to take another 10 to his tally.
Shout out Liam Stevens. He started all the way down in 10th position, looking at a podium now, as he's got in his mirrors you can see both Jan Halliday and Max Wiesel doing battle at the minute. Of course, Max with that penalty, Jan just doesn't seem to have the pace to keep up with Liam Stevens. I think he could be quite comfortable at this point in the Grand Prix, as we'll continue along. Liam Stevens is looking good for him. Meanwhile, Max Wiesel now towards the Singapore Sling, closing to the rear of Jan Halliday. Not this time though. He's going to sit back in behind for the time being, just chill in P5. Of course, with that penalty to his name, he'll drop down the order. Very disappointing, I'd say, that he's actually picked up that penalty, because it really does remove sort of the it kind of removes what is actually I don't know, the excitement from it, because we know that Max Wiesel is going to have that penalty, so really any of these moves aren't going to matter unless he gets that one removed. So it's a shame this is how it's worked out for Max Wiesel in this race, but he's only got himself to blame.
Yeah, but then again, we've got Declan Barrett, who's also looking to make moves, so he could also be one to try and factor in if he can get himself ahead of Max Wiesel, maybe try and charge after his team, because you can see the grip on Max Wiesel's tyres is doing such a good job along with Declan, but they have got better tyres than Jan, Liam, Daniel and Tamas. So we'll see what advantage they get, and Max has a massive tank slapper coming through the final corner, as also Jan Halliday looking for a move for the podium in towards turn number 1 ahead of Liam Stevens. Liam goes deep, Jan's back to the inside at turn number 2. Can he get that move done? Still to the inside. Liam will have the inside down at turn 4. Who's going to be ahead? Will it be Jan? Will it be Liam? They come side by side yet again in towards turn 5. To the outside they go. The Mercedes on the inside, and you can see bit of contact. Max Wiesel also looking to make it 3 wide. Down in towards turn 7. He gets himself ahead of Liam Stevens. Also a bit of contact with Jan Halliday in towards turn 7 they go. It's going to be Max to the inside line. Does he get that move? Cool, because Jan's going to keep it around the outside in towards turn 8. Sliding everywhere along the circuit. Jan's now going to be behind Liam Stevens, and they come side by side in towards turn 8. And there we've got Declan Barrett looking for a move on Liam Stevens to the outside line at turn number 9. And everything's happening here down on lap 25, and Liam now down to P6. What a curse.
Elbows out then. Sorry, Liam Stevens. Losing 3 places after we bigged him up for getting himself onto that podium. Now he's all the way down in P6. Still been a good performance from him this evening, but it's a shame that he's been, the biggest loser in all of that battling, as Max Wiesel's now completely cleared Jan Halliday, and so Jan is going to come under pressure from his teammate this evening, Declan Barrett. 2 very talented drivers in their own right. Declan Barrett looking to get Jan Halliday on the switchback, now heading down this straight in the 3rd sector. Jan is all over the circuit. Declan Barrett's trying to find a way through. He's going to look to the inside line now at the next braking zone. Declan Barrett down the inside of his teammate, and will get that move done in towards the next part of that chicane, and now in towards the final few corners. He will clear Jan, as now Liam Stevens looking for vengeance for losing those places at the hands as what's happened. Oh, someone's off the circuit. That's Race Imtiaz off the track there.
They went 3-1 into turn 19. They're also going 3-1 in towards turn 1. Down at the back of the field, I don't know what's going on, but they're all fighting for positions, and sorry to cut you off, but race went off track. They went 3-1 in towards turn 19. That, I think, will never work on this circuit, especially in the wet conditions, and they're all fighting and losing and gaining positions through this first sector. I definitely didn't think the rain would bring all of this entertainment. So we can see it further ahead. Joe Snordite looking for a move to put himself into P6 ahead of Liam Stevens, and well, this commentator's curse was definitely ahead. Everyone, as you can still see, Yost is all in the back of the Mercedes. He hasn't got the run towards turn 8, but he will have a decent run probably into turn 9, as we can see. Gundort fighting with Tygo Hardy down for P8 as well, in towards turns 8 and 9. Daniel Carr also getting in for this battle. This is an all left 7R battle for P8, 9 and 10. As you can see, Daniel getting a bit of contact between him and his teammate in towards turn 9. They head down towards turn 10, 11 and 12, and we'll see if any moves can be made there. But they're all sacrificing his position. They've got a 3-second gap now to Joost Noordijk, who's in 7th.
Yeah, Joost Noordijk's all over the rear as well to Liam Stevens, and now we'll go at the inside, have a half look in towards the hairpin corner. Liam Stevens leaves him the room, and now off the exit of the corner, looks like Joost Noordijk, the move is on around the outside in towards turn number 14. They're going to go wheel to wheel into the braking zone. Joost Noordijk with ever so slightly fresher intermediate tyres, seemingly making the difference on Liam Stevens and getting himself through now into P6. Liam Stevens has all been backwards for him, unfortunately, in these wet conditions, and it's just hope he can keep that gap to Tycho Hardy. Further back behind though, Kian Gondorp is through on Daniel Koya. They're playing for sport at the minute in P9. Still decent points paying position, 2 compared to 1. It's going to help out Kian Gondorp in his title fight, where he could potentially take the challenge to Tamas Gal, Max Wiesel and Joost Noordijk, but at the minute he is losing points and needs every single one that he can get. Tamas Gal for the last few laps, Nathan, has been keeping that gap to Daniel Shelson around about this half a second point. Daniel Shelson's not been brave enough to go for the move, but because they've sort of been backing off in pace, it's allowed now for Max Wiesel to get into this little 3-car train.
It has, and obviously Max got that penalty, so that will harm him, but at the moment it's only going to drop him down 2 positions. He'll finish in 5th position in this race, Max Wiesel will, if it keeps like this. So I think with the way it's going, with where Shimon and Joost and Keen are, Daniel Kjelsen, I said at the start, he could get involved in the title battle. Well, after this he'll move up into 3rd potentially in the standings, so this could be brilliant for Daniel Kjelsen and his possible title fight with Tamas and Max Wiesel. But that gap between Tamas yet again going up and up and up, this could be over, I think, 25 points possibly going into the next round, if anyone can stop him. Daniel and Max Wiesel, 2 of his opponents, obviously Max being the biggest opponent to him. Obviously with that penalty, can't really do much of a fight in terms of where they will be on circuit, but at the end, but in terms of on circuit, they can still have a decent fight between the two. You can see further back, Joost Noordijk looking for a move on Jan Halliday. Jan going a little bit deep at turn 14. He's also losing a lot of time in these wet conditions. He's also not comfortable. I think with the intermediate tyres, they all fly down towards turn 16. Max Wiesel on the back of Daniel Kjelsen. We could have a great battle for the lead, but Tamas Gal, I think, starting to try and bridge that gap a little bit more. The gap 5/10 as they head down that main straight in towards turn 1. We've got 3 laps left to go. I think it's all to play for the top 3.
And this title fight just feels a lot closer when you're actually watching it than the standings depict, because it seems like every single week Tamas Gal and Max Wiesel seem so interlocked in terms of pace, and it's so back and forth between the pair of them. But it seems like every single week Tamas Gal beats out Max Wiesel. He slides his way through now turn number 5 and could potentially open the door for Daniel Shelson and Max Wiesel in behind to go for the move, but it seems like no one's brave enough to lurch up the inside this time by. But the standings at the minute, you're saying, Nathan, could be 25 points by the end of this Grand Prix, and that seems like a massive gap when you consider that 1 race win is 16 points. So it just goes to show sort of the consistency that both Tamas Gal and Max Wiesel has, and it seems like Tamas Gal is just ever so slightly more consistent, more consistently better. That's the way of putting it.
He's done a great job. I think the issue with Max is that the race part, he's took 2 poles this season. He's been in the top in most races, and it's just the fact of he just seems to drop back in the race. He seems to make some of the strategic movements like in this race today, and all the penalties. It's either the strategy or the penalty. One of them doesn't go right for Max, and unfortunately today it is the penalties that haven't gone well for him. So he could be looking for a P3, could also be fighting for a win, but now that's going to be demoted all the way down to at least, I think, P4 at best in this race. So it's only 1 position down, but it's still a position down, and it still harms your championship. As you can see, Russian Jacobs up the inside of Lukomsky in towards turn 14. Lukomsky going deeply, hitting the wall at turn 14, and Richard now up into P11. He's got to gain a 3-second gap on Kian in the next 2 laps. I don't think that's possible, but he's also got that penalty, which even harms him more in this race. Because actually, someone's had a bit of an incident. Who's that? Is it Legend Rosenberg or something having an incident down at turn 10? I think he has, going very deep and letting Joe Van Bussel through.
I thought maybe he was slowing up to maybe have a little fight with his F7R teammate, but both of these guys completely out of this race. Race Imtiaz now into the pit lane, possibly to try what? Well, I have no idea what he's actually trying. Oh, okay. He's coming in to retire. It's been a disappointing day from Race Imtiaz. Imtiaz had so much potential. And then it just unraveled with one simple mistake. He didn't seem particularly quick on the mediums as well. He lost a lot of positions in comparison to the likes of Max Wiesel, Declan Barrett, and Jan Halliday? I don't think Jan Halliday pit. I was meaning to say Joost Noordijk in P6. Those two are very close in a fight at the moment. But yeah, Race Imtiaz, disappointing day from him. It's going to end with the only DNF so far in this race. I thought coming to Singapore would have meant a lot more DNFs than we've actually seen, but only one today, and that is now Race Imtiaz. We will see no further action from any Williams driver here this evening. Still though, 2.5 laps to go at this point. Tamas Gal still leading the way from Daniel Shelton in second, who's losing a bit of time to Max Wiesel. Max Wiesel's actually looking almost around the outside. Not much room there to squeeze his Red Bull through, but off the exit of the corner, will he try for the move down this straight? It seems like Daniel Shelton defending that overtake has got so much time now to Tamas Gal, now in towards the final couple of corners. Max Wiesel's going to be very frustrated at that one.
He is, and I think Max knows he's quicker because he is quicker, especially on track. He's a lot quicker as Todd Hardy gets ahead of Liam Stevens in towards turn 16. But Declan Barrett's also being brought into this battle. He's got a 4/10 gap now to Max Wiesel. Obviously, that gap to Jan Halliday is continuing to rise to 4 seconds. So Max, at best, will now finish in that P4. But I think Declan now is also looking to get a move through because I think Declan's probably the quickest in this top 4 train, along with Tamas Gal at the front, who's now got a 1 second gap to Daniel Yelton. All this battling is just not helping Max Wiesel at all. He's still stuck behind. He's just losing that gap to the lead, and I think that's just what's going to ruin this race. Unless he can find a move down towards Memorial Corner, I don't think he can do much else about it.
Down the Raffles Boulevard, he gets close to the back of Daniel Shelton. No room at the end. He's not going to go for that move. Declan Barrett has been invited into this fight as well, and so we could have a 4-car potential battle for the lead by the end of this race. But Tamas Gal on the verge of checking out at this point. He's close to getting that 1 second window to Daniel Shelton. Of course, no DRS at the minute, so really not going to make much of a difference. But he is pulling a decent margin to Daniel Shelton, where I think he could be comfortable with how this race is serving him. So yeah, Max Wiesel's got to get himself through on Daniel Shelton if he wants to potentially try and take the fight to Tamas Gal on the last lap. But I think the difference in pace between Tamas and Daniel, the race might be over now.
It could be, and obviously Daniel in the previous race is back in round 4, finished 2nd in Las Vegas, then finished 8th in Austria and 10th in Italy. So he's now looking to put himself back onto that podium step into P2. Still not close enough to take a victory this season, but he's getting ever so close as the races come through. So he's had a bit of a downfall in the last 2 races, but now looking to get himself back onto that top 4 to try and fight for victories, to try and fight for those well-deserved podiums in this championship. We can see that gap now to Tamas Gal, 1.2 seconds as they begin the final lap of this race. Lap 31 of 31. It's been a long evening, and it's about to end in about a minute and a half's time, with Tamas leading, Daniel in second, and Max Wiesel in that top 3 ahead of Declan Barrett.
See what happens then. Daniel Shelton seemingly pulling that gap. Sorry, not pulling that gap, losing that gap to Tamas Gal. 1.1 seconds is the difference between them at this point. It seems like this race might be over already. Tamas Gal has just got to cruise on home. Should have no issues from anyone but in behind. However, we turn our attention to Max Wiesel, who's trying for the move on Daniel Shelton. He's not going to go for it this time by, but into the braking zone you can see he's a bit more confident than Shelton into the braking zone and closes that gap. But it's just not enough to go for that overtake. Maybe, I think his opportunity's got to be in towards turn number 14. That could be where he goes for the move. I'm not too sure. Let's have a look at the battery situation between himself and Daniel Shelton. 41% for Max Wiesel, only 19% for Daniel Shelton, so the difference is paramount. Max Wiesel has much more resources to work with, but they are not as impactful in the wet weather conditions here, so we'll have to wait and see if Max Wiesel is able to go for this move off the exit now of the Anderson Bridge. He's not got a very good exit here, and Daniel Shelton is going to be able to pull away from the German driver ever so slightly into the braking zone. Max is very deep on the brakes trying to close that gap, and I think the race is in the books now. Tamas Gal leading the way as he heads now into the final sector for the final time in this race. Daniel Shelson kept him very humble for the majority of this wet stint, but now in the last few laps he's been able to pull that gap, and it is going to be yet another win for Tamas Gal, I believe his 4th of the season. He'll come across the line to take victory here in Singapore ahead of Daniel Shelson. After Max Wiesel's penalty, Declan Barrett will find himself on the podium. Max Wiesel ends up in 4th. 5th for Jan Halliday. He comes out on top in his battle with Joost Noordijk. Then, it's a spinner at the back. That is Richard Jacobs across the line. Tycho Hardy in 7th. 8th is Daniel Koyer. 9th, Liam Stevens. And Kian Gondorp will round out your top 10.
Yeah, it was well, to be fair, it was actually quite decent. From what it looked like it was going to be at the start, it got a lot better as the race come through, and Keane Gondorp left the session too early to return his car, so he should be in P9, so Risham will be dropped back down to P11. But yeah, it was a decent ending, to be fair. We had quite an entertaining final few laps on those intermediate tyres, obviously coming a lot earlier than I was predicted in the chat for them to come. So it made it even more surprising. But yeah, Tamas Gal, yet again, another well-deserved victory. 4 victories in this season now, 4 podiums, still not with a 2nd or 3rd. And yeah, what can stop him? I think with that gap now down to Max Wiesel, it'll be 8 points for P4. So that gap will go up to 28 points going into round 8. 28! But only a win is 16 points. That just shows how dominant Tamas Gal has been this season.
Yeah, as we're just waiting for now for Legend Rosenberg to come across the line. He's taking his sweet time here at the moment. I want to get off now. It's almost 10 p.m. here at this point. Legend is going to drift his way through the final corner, it seems, to end off what has been a very disappointing race for him this evening. He's gonna meet Jerry Van Bussel's car in the middle of the straight to finish off this race. Says he's P12. I believe is down in 15th due to everyone leaving the session prematurely. Daniel Shelson is awarded your driver of the day. I'm trying to remember where he actually started. We'll have a look in the next few minutes. However, we'll have a look at the podium celebrations here. Just waiting for them to appear on our screens. And then we can have a look at Tamas Gal celebrating atop the podium ahead of Daniel Shelson. And then Declan Barrett in 3rd position. A nice array of podium sitters yet again here this evening. Good to see Declan Barrett back on the podium after not appearing since round number 2. Tamas Gal wins this race from P3 on the grid. Daniel Shelson starting 7th, gains 5 positions to end up in 2nd. Declan Barrett rounds off that podium in 3rd. From pole to 4th place for Max Wiesel. Disappointing day for him. He does take the fastest lap, so will gain an additional point for his efforts, but he still loses points to Tamas Gal, which is going to be the crucial factor in this championship. Jan Halliday ends up in 5th ahead of Joost Noordijk, then Tycho Hardy in 7th alongside his fellow countryman Daniel Koyer in 8th, and rounding out the top 10 is Liam Stevens and Kian Gondorp, I believe it was. Then outside the top 10 was Shimon Lekomsky, Jerry Van Bussel, Legend Rosenberg, Richard Jacobs, Sergio Sobrino, and then DNFing out of this one is Race Imtiaz. Nathan, that brings us to the end of the race here.
It does, and we've also got someone in the waiting room, Declan Barrett, looking to have a bit of a chat with us.
All right, well, I will quickly bring Declan into the waiting room. We can talk. Sorry about that. There we go. Bring him in to the interview room. We can talk to him now. Declan, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a long time since I've raced, so it's good to be back.
Yeah, of course, coming into this one, you haven't raced since, I believe, round number 2. How did that affect your confidence coming into Singapore, a notoriously difficult circuit?
At the end, I think, to be honest, it gave me even more confidence because I knew there was nothing to lose. If I retire, I retire. I'm not in the championship fight at all, so I think it would just give me more confidence to try and get the win, which did happen today, but it was good fun.
Yeah, and of course, fighting out for pole position, you ended up 2nd on the grid. Did you expect to be this high up around Singapore?
Well, going into this, I did feel quite confident because I got the world record like a couple of days before, so I was like, okay, this could be a good track for me. And in the past, it's been one of my stronger tracks. And then, yeah, in qualifying, first 2 sectors were good, and then sector 3, I sort of rear locked a bit too much going into the first corner in sector 3 and lost a 10th and a half, I think it was. But at the end of the day, P2 in quali was good, and then going into the race, it was quite tricky because like it's sort of just a gamble if you want to go onto the mediums early and try and get the good advantage. But if you want to stay out and go on the hards, stay on the hards, and just hopefully the rain comes. It was a just flip a coin race, and at the end of the day, it didn't go our way, but it was still fun to be fine at the top.
Yeah, now into the next few rounds of the season, hopefully we can see you in 2024. How's the confidence that you can maybe take some wins?
Yeah, it seems quite high. I've got a good team around me in McLaren, so I think if I carry on the way I'm going and get the help that I need, I could maybe get a win or two, but it'll be a struggle.
Yeah, well, really well done from me. That's all my questions. Nathan, anything you want to say?
No questions, but just well done. Nice to see you back here, Declan in F2, and hope to see you a lot more this season.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you to Declan Barrett, ending up P3 in this race. I'm delighted to say that we are joined by both Daniel Shelson and our race winner, Tamas Gal. Nathan, take us through an interview with our P2 sitter.
Daniel, hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I think I was doing all right. Quali wasn't like the best again, but yeah, it was very close, and it was also took so much time before we got into the actual session, and stuff. But yeah, race pace again was pretty good. But it was of course strategy, which was the most important thing today. And I gained positions through that. So yeah, just trying to figure out when the rain was gonna arrive. So we decided to stay out, and it paid off. And yeah, decided to box one lap later than Thomas, and a few also I think boxed for Inters that lap. But I'd stayed out longer, trying to get the advantage, but didn't want to stay out any longer than one lap. Tried to get it, but wasn't quite to be. Tried it all to save tires for the end again, but yeah, Thomas was very quick in the last lap, so I was very close at one point. But yeah, I think he had more pace than what he's shown first. So GG's to him, and still good points, which I need because I've had a bit of a tough few last races. So I'll take P2.
Yeah, I think that'll put you roughly in towards that P3, P4 in the championship. Obviously, with Tamas having a really large gap, do you think you can still try and fight for it in these last few rounds, or do you think now it might be a little bit too far ahead?
I mean, anything can happen in league racing, but I mean, my aim is just gonna I'll try and be just as consistent as possible and get the points I can, and we'll see where it ends up. Yeah, where it ends up being. Yeah.
Yeah, so congratulations on the podium. That's all from me. Anything from you, Dan, for Dan?
No questions from me, but really well done this evening, and it's good to see you back on the podium. Hopefully, the next few races can see you get back here.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much to Daniel Shelson. Now it's time to talk to our race winner, Tamas. Are you here?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful. Once again, a fantastic showing from you this evening. I mean, this is 4 wins in so far this season. Looks like the title really is going your way at the minute.
I mean, it is looking that way. The preparation for this race wasn't what I wanted, because I just had to do so much for school, and just overall I didn't sleep that much in the past few days. And like I overall practiced like 2 hours for this, or 3 hours, because I just didn't have the time. But I knew that even if I qualify top 3, I can fight for the win. And the last stint was very good. Like I was saving my tires very well, and in the end I could gap Daniel, and in the end I just could take the win.
Yeah, and now with this win, once again, you extend your advantage to Max V. So a point that I brought up is that both of you seem incredibly close throughout the race, but it seems like you're just consistently a little bit better. What makes that difference between yourself and Max Wiesel?
Practice. Overall, like, just the experience what you have on the tracks, what you have on other tracks. If you, like, usually it gives me a lot of motivation if I know that I'm also really, really fast on other tracks, like how I show it in other leagues, in Tier 1 as well. Like, that gives me just so much motivation onto the next track and can just bring it with me. And if I bring that with me and practice on it, then I can be just really fast in race situations and quali situations. Like, race situation, I didn't practice at all for Singapore, for example. But I just still know what works and what doesn't in race. Also this very high down for circuit. And you have to be careful on tire, for example, because if you start drifting, then you are overheating very easily. And also the tire wear gap, like if you're not careful on just sliding, then you can have like up to 15% tire wear gap if you are like really sliding. But I had like 3 on my first stint, and Inter I had like 10, because on my first few laps it felt really weird because the grip was just not there yet, because it was still like dry Inter condition. And yeah, it was very well. It was very good.
Well, really well done. That's all my questions. Nathan, anything you want to say to our race winner?
Yeah, again, no questions from me, but yeah, again, well done, Tomasz, on that P1 for the 4th time this season. I hope we see you back again at the top before the end, and maybe this time you get the championship. Obviously, last season a little bit unlucky, and also in challenges on the last game. So maybe it's your time to shine this season here in PSGL.
Yes.
So thank you to Tomasz Gal joining us in the interview room. It's not often that we have all 3 podium sitters coming to talk to us. So very happy with the turnout this evening. But that brings us now to the end, I believe, of this stream.
Yes, it's well, it was a lot more entertaining than I thought it would have been at the start. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think Singapore normally isn't a great one, but today definitely did serve up a treat. I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, I think I don't know where we are for the rest of the season. I've completely forgot we got a big break now for Christmas, which to me, Dan, I think it's because me and you are getting a little bit old now, but Christmas just doesn't feel the same. Normally I'll be excited for Christmas, it's 1 week to go, but now it's like, it's 10 days away, I didn't know that.
I am holly jolly at the minute. I'm very excited for Christmas. I want to spend it with my loved ones, and that is what I'm very happy for. That's what Christmas now is about, at least. It used to all be about the presents and stuff. I gave it really no thought into what I wanted this year, and I just want to spend time with my family and with friends as well, and of course with my special someone should be watching at the minute now. One more day and then it's 1 year. 1 year anniversary, so very happy at the moment with how the times. Oh god, this character growth, all right.
Congratulations, Dan.
Thank you. I don't know at this point anymore what to say. I think now is a good spot to end off. You can tell it's late. It's 10 p.m. Never have I done a stream this late before, so we can thank EA for the incredible servers that they provide us. And I think that is all for 2023, PSGL's biggest year, and hopefully 2024 is even bigger. Thank you to everyone who has tuned in throughout 2023. We hope to see you back next year, where season 35 continues. Make sure you join us as well next Thursday for the commentators Christmas event. Myself and Nathan will be taking part. We'll be fighting for P17 right at the back of the order together. So please do make sure you tune in for that. But once again, thank you everyone for watching PSGL F2 in 2023. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the PSGL YouTube channel and follow us on our socials. It'll be at PremierSimGL on both Instagram and Twitter. And if you want to keep up to date with all your PSGL news, you can join the Discord. The link is in the description. If you want to follow myself on Twitter, it is at DanfieldF1_. And if you want to follow Nathan, it is RichieF1 with the eyes replaced by ones. Thank you everyone once again so much for tuning in. We will see you in 2024.
got the inside. Walker is through on the left-hand side. Hooks the apex, gets on the power nicely, and that is job done. Jarno Opmeer now to the last couple of corners now. His finest drive, his greatest drive, and he's done it at the Circuit of the Americas. He returns to the top step of the podium. Once again, the GOAT is back. Jarno Opmeer wins the US Grand Prix in a stunning Grand Prix.